Kansas resulted in a 27% drop.
All right, and we are going to pause that coverage here to take you out live to this press conference after we shared with you that a man died after being held in a chokehold by his teen son. Let's listen in.
Major with the Harris County Sheriff's Office overseeing the Criminal Investigations Bureau. Standing with me is Captain Lonnie Tullis, District 4 Patrol Commander, Lieutenant Jason Sauer, and Sergeant Nieto. The information I'm about to share is preliminary and subject to change as the investigation evolves. At approximately 3:43 this morning, Harris County Sheriff's Office District 4 deputies were dispatched to the 21,400 block of Sagrantino Court in West Harris County concerning a family disturbance. A female reported that her estranged husband was banging on the door. A few moments later,
critical role in improving the economy. The problem is we as students and future graduates don't have much opportunities due to years of war. The issue is when we graduate and try to land our first job, they tell us we don't have experience. How on earth can we have experience when we just graduated?
Everyone knows Yemen is going through perilous times. Job opportunities are scarce and unemployment is very high. Opportunities for skilled workers are very limited, but we students know very well that there will come a time when our degrees will be worth something. More opportunities are ahead, and hopefully we will play a role in this change.
Khaloud's glitter may not reveal the secrets of the earth, but perhaps it is unearthing the resilience of Yemen's youth who are determined to succeed.
Well, despite few jobs being available for students after they graduate, many say getting a university degree is still critical in order to help develop transferable skills, build professional networks, and increase long-term earning potential in an uncertain Yemeni job market. Yusuf Maudi, Al Jazeera, Sana'a.
Mali's President Assimi Goïta has named himself defense minister after last month's coordinated attacks by armed groups. Critics say the military government is conducting a purge targeting soldiers and retired officers and civilians accused of links to the violence. Nicholas Hack has this exclusive report.
These are Malian soldiers in Kidal. They've been stripped of their uniforms and are being held as prisoners of war by Tuareg separatists. We've concealed their faces for their safety and to protect their identities. He introduces himself as a paramilitary soldier. Another says he's an army officer. This one says he's a policeman. He says the wounded are receiving care in hospital, but we were not allowed to film inside the hospital. The Liberation Front of Azawad, known as the FLA, says it respects human rights and does not target civilians. But after toppling Malian forces in Kidal, it's now sharing power with the Al-Qaeda affiliate, which human rights group accused of rape, torture, and abuse.
Today, we're trying to set up ways to coexist not as allies, but as a temporary arrangement. We don't really have a choice. We're forced to do it.
The Tuareg separatists want a homeland they call Azawad. Al-Qaeda wants an Islamic state. But for now, they have a shared enemy, Mali's military government in Bamako. In late April, they launched coordinated attacks from Kidal and Sévaré to Bamako and Kati, the garrison town at the heart of Mali's military power. That's where Defense Minister Sadio Camara was killed. Since then, officers, politicians, and even lawyers are being rounded up. Critics have called it a witch hunt. They're being accused of colluding with the enemy. Authorities say last month's attack were only possible because of traitors within.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell. Thank you for joining. We're live streaming on Rumble and YouTube. You can also watch either version of the live stream on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So the theme today is shocks to the system that will lead to a world curse. Those shocks are food shocks, energy shocks, instability geopolitically. These are all variables individually where a larger ecosystem, our social system around the world, could adapt to. But when these individual variables are synergistic, it will lead to what I call the world curse. And that world curse is going to start on September 11th, 2026. Why? That is the first day of Rosh Hashanah. It's the Jewish New Year, and it coincides with the Sabbath. Why is that important? If Rosh Hashanah coincides with the Sabbath, the ram's horn, the shofar, cannot be blown to silence Satan, or what we call Satan. When that happens, either a community, a person, a country, or the whole world gets a curse. Now, because of the events that have taken place since 2023, where the world has been spinning out of control and not reaching some sort of peaceful resolution amongst religious communities, intra-religious communities, and inter-religious communities, because countries haven't reached peaceful coexistence. When you have political parties on either side of the aisle not talking to each other and only causing more division, there's going to be a curse. And we're all, have all contributed to a small part of it. But because it's accumulative, since 2023, there's going to be something very bad coming. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a foregone conclusion. If we get our act together between now and September 11th of 2026, then the curse will be less. But if we don't, which it doesn't look like we are, it's going to be pretty bad. So that's my take on it. That's the metaphysical aspects to what's happening geopolitically. But we have the oil shock. It's going to affect the economy. We have too many problems with our food supply. There's a consolidation to just a few actual major houses that control the food supply. Our farmers and our cattle ranchers are diminishing. It's costing too much to run the farms or to manage the herds. And it's going to cause a problem. And if you don't think I'm right, just take a look at your pocketbook. Just take a look at what is literally happening on a daily basis in your life. You think it's getting better, or do you think it's getting worse? Life was better 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Life is not better for the average person now compared to 25 years ago. All right. With that, we're going to be taking a look at some of the news, and we're going to be taking a look at the markets. Now, let me give you an update of what is happening in the markets. The markets in the United States are open. The S&P 500 is at 7,247, and the VIX is at 17. Yesterday, there was a little bit of an uptick in oil because of the conflict in the region between the United States and Iran. Iran decided to hit a boat. We knocked out some speedboats. I think it was 6 of them, maybe 5. And there was a false claim that the Iranians hit a U.S. warship, which the CENTCOM denied. So oil did tick up a little bit yesterday. Right now, oil is trading at 102. So it's gone back down below the resistance level of 104. And I still think there's going to be a trading range between 94.87 to about 104. So close to 95 to 104 will be a trading range for a while here. I don't think that the United States is going to go into any serious kinetic event in that region while Trump is preparing for his trip to China. That trip, I believe, is on the 14th and 15th. So I don't expect anything to happen between now and then. Something might happen at the end of the month. In addition, in terms of the world curse, our munitions are depleted because of this war effort. And take a look at 2 episodes ago. This is episode 18. So take a look at episode 16. I go over the analysis that was done by CSIS, taking a look at all the different missile systems that they were using in the Middle East, how long it would take to actually restock. And that answer is years, not months, not weeks, years. Now, you still think that the whole social system, this whole international world order is stable? I don't think so. So there's also going to be a munition shock on top of all these other variables that we're talking about. A complex system is showing rumblings of instability. And if the variables align just perfectly, it will amplify the problem. And this world curse that I've been talking about is going to happen. Now, not everything is going to happen on September 11th, 2026, but it's an opening of a door, metaphorically, where it allows for curse to start getting worse over time. And that door isn't going to close until October of the following year, 2027. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. With that, please make sure that you subscribe to my channels. I have YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. You can follow me on TikTok, Substack, X, and GETTR. You can also be a patron on my Patreon channel that helps support the work that I do. All these videos I do are for free. I think I'm giving you a unique perspective because no one's telling you about the curse that's coming. And it's not some like just off the wall metaphysical thing. There's actually a lot of data points to point in this direction that are coming from the economy that I cover every day. So all these videos I do are for free, but please help support the work that I do. You can donate on my website. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. You can be a paid member on my Substack channel and Patreon channel. That will help to disseminate the free content. I also have supplements that will help to improve your health because our health is one of these other shocks that are going to happen. So it's important to pay attention to me. You need to bring down inflammation. You need to soak up those free radicals. You need to boost up your energy levels. And those, if you target those pillars, then what's going to happen is you're going to be able to slow down the aging process and boost up that immune system. You're going to need it. All right. With that, let's listen into the meatpacking problem that is happening in the United States. It's causing beef to cost so much.
Going where? China. So it's not just price gouging and price fixing we have to worry about. It's also the influence of foreigners on our supply chain and the national security issues that are associated with that. We cannot tolerate that. And so General Blanche alluded to a settlement coming up this week. I can tell you that there's supposed to be a trial in Minnesota this week. It's a company called AgriStats. What is AgriStats? This is like the mathematician's worst nightmare in terms of monopoly behavior. Basically, what the companies in this concentrated industry were doing was individually sending in data on everything, consumers, production, everything in between. And what did that computer do? It spit back what the monopoly price should be. Justice Department said, no more, no mas. That's not going to happen on our watch. And that case, I believe, is going to be settled well or at trial in a way which not only will take care of that problem, but implicates some of the bad actions that we've seen by the two American companies, Tyson's and Cargill, and JBS on the Brazilian side, along with National Beef. Although I hasten to add here that the Brazilians are far more of the problem. And it's complicated by the fact that the Brazilians, particularly JBS, hands out millions of dollars to our American political system like it's candy. And the rate of return they get on that would make a Wall Street hedge fund blush.
All right, wanted to bring you some of those remarks just in case you missed them yesterday, right here on Live Now from Fox. If you are just joining us, we are just past the top of the hour on this Tuesday, 10:01 on the East Coast.
It's really important to pay attention to these shocks that are starting to happen with energy, with food, with economic stability, our military prowess. These are all variables in a complex system that individually our world system could absorb. But when they're all happening at the same time, it probably will end up having a big problem. So with that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin C and magnesium. Vitamin C and magnesium will boost up that immune system, help with brain function, and also help with your skin. It's really important to take every day. Vitamin C, when you drink filtered water and take the collagen from my store, it'll cross-link and improve your dermal layer, so your skin improves also. Vitamin B complex. Vitamin B complex is really important for individuals that are 40 years of age or older. Why? Because it'll help to boost up your energy, rev up your metabolism, and protect your neurons. If you think about aging, your neurons start to fail, your metabolism starts to go down, your energy levels start to go down. So this is reversing many of the effects of aging. So please go to my store, get the vitamin B complex, boost up that ATP, protect your neurons, and rev up that metabolism. Digestive enzyme complex. A lot of people have problems with their pancreas because of overconsumption of alcohol, poor diet, just the aging of the pancreas. You need to reduce the load on your pancreas so it can heal. Now, your pancreas produces a lot of enzymes to digest food, but if it's diseased, if you have pancreatitis, if it's diseased, it can't function properly. And over time, it may end up developing pancreatic cancer. Now, what you want to do is reduce the load on the pancreas. Give it time to heal. Give it time to rest. But you have to eat, right? Or you die. So the best thing to do is to actually improve the health of your pancreas by giving it, while you eat, taking enzymes that'll help to digest the food. So the pancreas doesn't have to produce as many enzymes. And that way the pancreas can kind of heal, right? Now, digestive enzyme complex will break up the proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids because it has the enzymes to do that. And what that will do is it'll reduce that load on the pancreas, allow you to digest your foods. You'll be able to absorb your nutrients better. Now, this is really important if you're 40 years of age or older. No matter how healthy you are, I guarantee you that your pancreas doesn't work as well as when it was younger. My pancreas doesn't work as well as I was in my teens or younger. That's just because of natural aging. Right? And I'm a pretty healthy person. So it's really important to take. Also, digestive enzyme complex will help to break up clots because it has bromelain in it. Bromelain is an enzyme to break up clots. So it's really important. It'll also help with your cardiovascular health. Resveratrol. Resveratrol helps with youthful gene expression, helps the basal layer of your skin, stacks really well with C60 so you have healthier skin. In addition, it'll soak up free radicals and boost up your energy levels, help the health of your mitochondria. So you're slowing down aging. You're increasing your energy levels. You're also getting rid of cells that need to go into senescence. Wait, you're getting rid of cells that are in senescence. It's helping them to go into apoptosis. If you have a lot of senescent cells in your tissues, you're accumulating lipofuscin. When you accumulate lipofuscin, your tissues don't perform as well because the cells aren't performing well, because it's collecting garbage. You want to get rid of those. So resveratrol helps to get rid of those senescent cells. So those senescent cells will go into apoptosis. And when you purge those cells, the tissues that can regenerate will start to regenerate, and you'll have healthier cells replacing them. So your tissue age is, on average, starts to go down, not up. If you have a lot of senescent cells collecting garbage, your age of the tissue actually accelerates. But if you get rid of those senescent cells and new cells are generated in that tissue, the cells are younger. They have longer telomeres. They have more youthful gene expression. So please go to my store, get the resveratrol. Stacks really well with C60. And lastly, olive leaf extract, dual purpose, brings down inflammation and helps to control the lipid profile, helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. What this does is it boosts up your immune system and helps with your cardiovascular system. You should be taking this every day. It's dual purpose. It's an inexpensive way to get healthy. Now, if you couple that with proper diet and exercise, proper sleep, mindfulness, you're going to do wonders for your body. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift till supplies last. And make sure you use discount 5 because I want you to save some money. Why? Because everything around you costs too much. And it's really important to not set aside your health because of the crisis that's happening. It's really important for you to look in the mirror and say, no matter what, you're going to invest in your body so you have longevity, so you have vitality, especially into your geriatric years. If you don't invest now, you're going to have problems later. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Commercial ships, along with American destroyers, have already safely transited the strait, showing the lane is clear. We know the Iranians are embarrassed by this fact. They said they controlled the strait. They do not. Now, you already touched on this, but I wanted to ask you, does it appear that they have really any control over the strait? Because we also heard from Iranian officials yesterday via state media that they had been able to strike some of those U.S. Navy vessels, maybe one of them, with missiles. And of course, CENTCOM came out very quickly and said that didn't happen.
Well, I think that Iran has the ability to threaten the strait. Make no mistake. Iran has two navies. It has its regular navy, which is the Artesh Navy, and it has the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy. The Artesh's navy has been effectively destroyed as a result of U.S. military operations during Operation Epic Fury, and I think that that's what you hear from President Trump, who always discusses how Iran's navy has been destroyed. But Iran has another navy, and that's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, which uses asymmetric asymmetric tactics against larger powers like the United States. And the IRGC's Navy has fast attack craft, small boats, speedboats, which are used to interfere with freedom of navigation and to challenge larger powers like the United States. And so Iran does have the ability to threaten the strait, and that just the threat alone, even without any attacks, despite there having already been attacks, but even the threat of attacks provides a chill within the shipping industry, as it will increase the risk aversion of shipping companies to use the Strait of Hormuz when there's this threat of military action against their vessels. So just the threat of Iranian strikes against these commercial vessels has the ability to chill the shipping industry's use of the strait, and that's what the Iranians are betting on. But the U.S. is trying to change that calculus.
And of course, as I mentioned, you are with United Against Nuclear Iran. So I wanted to talk about something that's not being talked about as much as it was initially, and that is the nuclear program that Iran has. What do we know about where things stand there? Has Iran had time to rebuild some of its nuclear program? Do we have any idea?
Well, I think Iran's uranium enrichment program was effectively destroyed during Operation Midnight Hammer. That was last year, and that was a very important achievement of President Trump's military operation because it effectively created a fact on the ground that Iran had suspended enrichment of uranium for the first time in decades. So that was a very important development. Now, I think that there have been other damages to the Iranian nuclear program beyond the uranium enrichment capacity, and that is the weaponization elements of Iran's nuclear program. Iran, for many years, has used academic research institutions and other military facilities as dual-use centers where it conducted research and development on technologies which had the application of being able to be used to develop a nuclear weapon. And Iran and the United States destroyed many facilities associated with an organization called the Organization for Defensive Innovation and Research, or SPND, which housed the remnants of Iran's nuclear weapons program. And there was the targeted killing of scientists affiliated with that program, the damage to infrastructure affiliated with that program. And so we have to put all of these pieces together to assess the real damage to Iran's nuclear program, which has been substantial. Now, does that mean Iran does not have the capabilities to rebuild its nuclear program? Not necessarily. Iran can rebuild the nuclear program, but it's going to take money, it's going to take time, and it's going to take resources. And right now, Iran's not in a position to do that. There is unfinished business as it relates to the nuclear program in Iran. We still have a stockpile of highly enriched uranium, some of which is buried in Isfahan and other places as well. And so we are going to need to deal with that stockpile in order to fully deprive Iran of the leverage that it has to threaten the world with the development of a nuclear arsenal. And there's also Pickaxe Mountain, which is another facility that has not been targeted to date by the United States and Israel, but it should absolutely be a target because that could, again, provide it the capability to reconstitute its nuclear program.
And as I mentioned, a lot of discussion has been over the past several weeks, more so about the Strait of Hormuz than the nuclear program overall. Is there any world where, as we see this back and forth, where Iran claims to be providing these proposals to President Trump, he says they're not acceptable, is there any world where the nuclear program is not part of that? The last one that we heard about said that any sort of deal would postpone the nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran. Any world where President Trump says that's okay?
No, I can't see that happening at all because President Trump has been focused like a laser on the nuclear weapons capability. Out and
Lost the
the so that piece with the Islamic Republic, and so that's why we see the president saying that it's unacceptable.
All right, and I'd love to ask you that as we see this all play out and these developments that come in pretty much on an hourly basis.
Well, I think we're going to be looking to see about Project Freedom and if they're able to get more vessels through.
There's something wrong with live now. For some reason, the audio keeps on breaking
GCC
apart.
states, which they view as low-hanging fruit, and they're not targeting Israel, interestingly, because they know that if they target Israel, Israel is going to start striking Iranian territory again. And we have to look at Iranian behavior towards the United States. They've been firing on U.S. warships, but the Pentagon seems to say publicly, for now at least, that they fly below the threshold of what would constitute a rupture in the ceasefire. So we have to see if the Iranians do anything in the coming days that would trigger the U.S. to say that the ceasefire is over effectively. So I'm also watching that. I'm watching what the UAE is going to do in response to these strikes on Fujairah. The UAE, there were unconfirmed reports during Operation Epic Fury that the UAE launched a strike on a refinery on one of Iran's islands. And so I think that the UAE has been one of the more hawkish members of the GCC states. And so looking to see what the UAE does in response will be very important. And so those are some of the things I'm watching.
Yeah, a lot going on there. Jason M. Brodsky, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here, helping to break down the developments. Anything we missed that you want to make sure to add here before I let you go?
We're gonna go to another feed here. Now, this is talking about U.S. military close to resuming combat operations on Iran, sources say. This was 2 hours ago by Fox News.
Celebrate the return of spring. Send warm wishes and thoughtful gifts that say happy birthday.
In about 35 minutes, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs Chairman will give us an update on Operation Epic Fury and Project Freedom as the U.S. works to guide those ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. Aisha Hasni is live at the White House with the latest. Hey, Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you, Ainsley. Well, the question this morning for both Secretary Hegseth and the president is this ceasefire still in place? We don't know that yet from the White House. The president was asked about it last night. He didn't answer. A lot of folks are saying different things, but we don't know yet what the White House view on this is. And that's important because U.S. officials told our Jen Griffin that we are closer to the resumption of major combat operations after what took place this week. Iran, as you know, Ainsley, launched a missile and drone attack on the UAE, fired at ships as well this week in the Strait as Operation Freedom got underway. That's to help ships transit the Strait of Hormuz. The Pentagon says 2 commercial vessels have made it through safely, while the president says at least 6 Iranian small boats were shot down for trying to interfere with what we're doing out there. And he warns Iran that it will be blown off the face of the earth. That is a quote from the president if they attack any U.S. vessels carrying out Project Freedom. Now, last night, CENTCOM shared this picture of the U.S. Air Force F-16 fighter aircraft that are among more than 100 land and sea-based aircraft supporting this project, as well as the U.S. Navy F/A-18 Super Hornets that launched from USS Abraham Lincoln. Of course, Lincoln is one of the 2 aircraft carriers that are enforcing the blockade that the U.S. has on Iranian ports. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, told Fox that the U.S. has absolute control of the strait right now.
The Iranians do not have control of the strait. We have absolute control of the strait. We have blockaded the ships going into or out of Iranian ports. Their economy is in free fall. And everyone says they have the high tolerance for pain. Well, their soldiers will not have a high tolerance for not getting paid.
So Ainsley, we will see the president in just a little bit here. He's got a signing in the Oval Office today. We'll see if he takes any questions about Iran, tells us if he feels like the ceasefire is still in place. In the meantime, the Secretary of War will see first at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon, and Secretary Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, will actually brief here at the White House later this afternoon.
Okay, well, that's
Ainsley?
great. Great news. We'll be covering it all. Thank you so much, Aisha. Great to see you.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
All right, I wanted to listen into surveillance here. Oh, they're on break. All right, let's listen into, I guess a man was stabbed near Times Square
Stabbed to
last
death
night.
in Midtown, and police are searching for at least 3 suspects. Again, that is according to the New York City Police Department. The 39-year-old victim was attacked very late last night. It was around 11:30 p.m. local time outside of a restaurant on West 43rd Street. That's a busy corridor near Times Square and just steps from a police precinct. Again, that information from police. Investigators say the man was stabbed several times in the face, back, and torso. Emergency responders rushed him to a nearby hospital where we are told he was pronounced dead. Now, at this point, police have not released his identity pending any kind of family notification. Important to note that this happened about 11:30 p.m. Eastern time, but we're talking near Times Square, a very busy, no doubt, area of New York City, if you've ever been over there. Now, this is a 39-year-old victim, as I mentioned, and authorities are looking for 3 men who they say were last seen wearing dark-colored clothing. Not a great description. No arrests have been made, and the weapon used in the attack has not been recovered. Surveillance footage from cameras in the area expected to play a key role in the investigation, and the New York City Police Department a lot of times releases that video and the images, so we'll make sure to bring that to you as we get it. Now, the killing comes just hours after police officials announced that New York City recorded the lowest number of homicides in its history for the first 4 months of the year. According to Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, 76 murders were reported citywide from January through the end of April, surpassing the previous record low of 86. That was back in 2018, nearly a decade ago. The Midtown South Precinct, where the stabbing occurred, has now recorded 3 homicides so far this year. Police asking anyone with any information there to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. What we're working to do is see if there will be a news conference there with the New York City Police Department, or if we get any additional information here from our Fox 5 New York team, we will have that for you here in real time on Live Now from Fox. And as we take a live look here outside of the White House in D.C., want to remind you of another story that we have been following here with the help of our Fox 5 Washington, D.C. station. This is about an incident that happened near the White House just yesterday. Now, we know that a child was injured in a shootout on the National Mall, and the suspected gunman was then shot by a U.S. Secret Service agent. All of that coming from Secret Service officials. Fox 5's Melanie Alnwick reports there are still many unanswered questions less than 24 hours after that gunfire. The Secret Service has not released the name or the condition of the man who was shot, and the age of that child not disclosed. Essentially, what they said is that it was a, quote, juvenile bystander. Crime scene investigators documenting clothing, shoes, and bullet casings near the base of the Washington Monument as school tour groups looked on. According to Secret Service, a juvenile was accidentally shot after being caught in the crossfire between uniformed officers and that man with a gun. Plainclothes Secret Service officers first identified a suspicious man, and uniformed officers then approached him. They say after a brief foot chase, the man allegedly pulled out a gun and fired. Officers then returned fire, striking him, and investigators believe the child was hit by a bullet from the suspect's weapon, not Secret Service. Secret Service Deputy Director Matthew Quinn did not specify where plainclothes officers first noticed the man, only that he appeared to have a gun. Quinn said the suspect showed no menace and that nothing else about him beyond the firearm raised any suspicion. The agency said that Vice President J.D. Vance's motorcade had passed through that area right before the shooting, but added there is no information linking the suspect to the vice president or the president.
All right, I'm going to go to Bloomberg, but before we do, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the magnesium and zinc. The magnesium and zinc will help with brain function and boost up that immune system. Most people aren't taking enough magnesium in terms of improving their brain function. They may be getting enough at the FDA level, recommended FDA allowance, but you need over and above that to improve your brain function. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the magnesium and zinc, and magnesium and zinc will also improve the efficacy of vitamin D3. Now, vitamin D3 is very important to take every day, but especially during the cold season. And vitamin D3 will help with your cardiovascular health, but also help with your bone density. It is a gene expression cofactor, so your cells will perform better. And if your cells are infected, it'll help the cells to go into apoptosis. This is why it's so important to take during the cold season, but you should be taking it every day. Again, it'll also help with bone density and help with cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin D3 and get the magnesium and zinc. The magnesium and zinc and the vitamin D3 is a great stack. They're synergistic. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. Make sure you use discount 5 and you get $5 off.
More live coverage coming up.
It's more stuff. With even certain events that you go to, certain gift cards you might get, not actually having the ability to put it on your Apple Wallet. So this is instead, say you get a one-off event down at Jones Beach, you're going in New Jersey, I know you're spending your summer by the shore there.
Caroline knows you.
Yes. I love working at Apple and I get to know the New Jersey love. But say that particular event doesn't have the feasibility of a relationship with iOS, you can take a QR code that they send you and just load it into your wallet. So there it is. So you can have all things in one place. They're trying to become more of a hub in that respect. So this is a nice little upgrade that we're going to see to the software operating system coming soon.
I look forward to that because I know I'm one of those people, I have to search through my inbox to go, where did those tickets go?
Yeah.
Where's that QR code? You just put them in the Apple Wallet and forget about it. That's smart.
One-stop shop.
Is this coming out in the next iOS update?
That's what's anticipated by me.
All right, here's the latest thing I put into my wallet. I'm not sure I like it. Like the key fob for my new car.
Okay.
Don't need a key fob. You just download, put it in the app, and my phone is now my key.
Yeah.
And the BMW key is actually now in your wallet. So as soon as you just walk up to the car unlocks.
Well,
and then when you walk
it's a little
away,
scary. Don't leave your phone anywhere.
Exactly.
That's the scary part.
I don't know how that's all going to work. Caroline Hyde, she's the boss of all this B-Tech stuff. Yes, exactly. Caroline Hyde, B-Tech co-host, giving us the latest on what's happening in the world of technology. Looking at these markets, guess what? We're moving higher here. What are the pros doing here? How are you resetting for a market that's hitting new all-time highs?
All right. The S&P 500 is trading at 7,257. VIX is at 17. Euro is trading at 117. Japanese yen is trading at 157.7. Oil's trading at 101.84, so it's drifting down a little bit compared to yesterday. Bitcoin, which is surprising, is it's now approaching 82,000. Natural gas is trading at 2.8. So let me give you my take on oil here. Oil right now is drifting down, right? I'm waiting for some sort of escalation that happens. Maybe maybe a tanker is hit and sunk by the Iranians or something like that. Oil will spike. But I suspect that there's going to be a trading range between 95 and 104. I think there's a resistance level at 104. Every time it gets above 104, it comes back down pretty quickly. So So I think that it's established that 104 is a resistance level. It's hard to maintain a higher WTI future price above that. And it's hard to break the 94 level. So it's a major support. This is the reason why 94 to 104, this $10 range is the trading range. The question is what happens after Trump has his meeting with the Chinese prime minister or president, I guess. And, you know, will there be further escalation in the region? Most likely there will be. And the question is will it be enough to actually end the conflict that we have to escalate to de-escalate? We'll see what happens. But at least in the near term, I think a 95 to 104 range is pretty accurate in terms of trading. Now, in terms of natural gas, we're moving into the summer season, and natural gas futures usually go down in the summer. It should be at closer to 2.5 and not 2.8. So I suspect that it's going to start drifting down to 2.8. Not fast because of the conflict in the Middle East, but it'll start to slowly drift down. So I suspect that around 2.8, right now it's trading at 2.819. I think 2.8 is going to end up being a resistance level, and then a support level is going to be around 2.5. Now, to trade what I just said, cold, spelled with a K, would be an ETF that allows you to benefit from a declining natural gas futures. In terms of the trading range for oil, one way to play it is to, if it's close to 95, you want to buy UCO, and if it's close to 104, you want to sell, and to benefit from that selling of the futures, you want to buy SCO. So that's a way to play this range. But it is leveraged ETF that has a volatility decay, so it's risky. You can't hold a position for a long time. All right, let's listen into Bloomberg. Oh, in terms of equities, my recommendation is to continue buying equities. I have a target of 7,400 for the S&P 500 to 7,800. And depending on what happens after the end of the month and Trump's visit to China, I may be raising my target for the S&P 500 to 8,000. So I would continue buying the equity market.
Pay out the way these companies are hoping. Why is Wall Street picking and choosing who to rally around when it comes to AI spending? Because you hear about some companies saying, oh, we're going to spend, X amount on AI, and then the stock sells off while others, skyrocket.
Sure. Well, maybe they don't have a track record of deploying new technology well. I know that's shocking. We kind of think that all of the companies in America are above average, and some really aren't. There are some non-tech companies that are phenomenally good about picking technology, deploying it, and making their employees more productive. And I think, that is always in style. And there are others that just chase after like the next new thing, deploy lots of money, and it doesn't pay off for them. So again, like I'm a fundamental analyst. I eat this stuff up, like looking at companies, seeing what their track record is, who their executives are, what their track record is, and can they deliver? That's the big question. And can they deliver better productivity with AI? Some yes, some no.
All right, Kim, thank you so much. We always appreciate getting a few minutes of your time. Kim Forrest, she's a founder.
Well, I think that you're going to have a group of people in the economy that's running companies that are going to view this as, hey, there's too much hype with the AI, and that they're just going to maybe toy around with AI to improve some processes, building up scripts that may help with workflow for employees and not do any layoffs. Then you're going to have another group out there that's chasing the trend, and they'll be overspending for AI implementation. And to offset that overspending, that CapEx, they're going to lay off people. This is what you're seeing with Meta. Now, you're going to have another group of people out there that will be using AI, not because of the hype, but they're not just testing it. They have a good handle on how they're going to restructure their business. Now, way back in the early days of the internet, when corporations were adopting their operations, Jack Welch told each of the business units heads over at GE. Jack Welch used to be the big MBA guy over at GE, the conglomerate. They owned a lot of different companies, and he cut his teeth on investing in plastics, the GE plastics back then. Then GE sold the plastics division. But back then, there was a conglomerate for GE. And in the early days of the internet, when companies were starting to adopt an E strategy, he told the business units, find a way to rebuild your business model around this type of technology, this internet, the web page, the web browser, right? And so what they did was that, some of that technology was to inform customers. Some of that technology was to communicate within the company using the internet, putting on company documents, behind a firewall, being able to disseminate information within the company. So they were using it in two ways: inform customers about their products and services, but also an intra communication within the company. So something is going to be happening with AI, with this other category, where they're using AI to improve intra communication, but also they're going to build processes that will make them more productive, but most likely you won't need as many people. The bigger now, if you zoom this out as an economist, the question is, will the aggregate demand increase or will the aggregate demand decrease? If the aggregate demand decreases, more people will be laid off. If the aggregate demand increases, then this will be very similar to the tech boom of the mid to late 90s and into the 2000s, where there was a further push for digitization of business processes. It started in the 80s. Actually, it started in the 70s and 60s, if you really want to, get into the details of it with IBM mainframes and stuff like this. But the average company didn't really use a mainframe. All right. And, until the personal computer was cheaper, many companies were still doing processes with paper. So, but that digitization of the corporation really advanced in the 80s and especially in the 90s. Like when I started work, there was fax machines. Well, there's no fax machines anymore, right? So, changes have taken place. The internet allowed for email. I think my first email was in probably 93, maybe 93, 94, something like that. Everything else was, the old style corporate way of communicating with memos. So if there's going to be an aggregate demand increase, then there's going to be more jobs, more opportunity, and it's not going to be what I call the AI shock. I suspect what will happen is the aggregate demand will go down. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have many companies that are going to have to invest in AI. They're going to feel that they're behind the 8 ball. They're going to spend a lot. They're going to make a lot of mistakes. And they're going to cut staff to offset those additional costs. Well, when those employees are laid off and other companies are becoming more efficient, they're not going to be absorbed into the economy, and therefore aggregate demand is going to go down. So this aggregate demand is going to be a deflationary issue. Now, we don't know. No one knows what's really going to happen with aggregate demand as companies are adding this AI type technology. I suspect, though, because of how much they have to invest into it and the recurring fees because of the use of the tokens, then that the average corporate worker is you're going to need less of them. Very similar to what happened during, let's say, the drafting age in automotive. You had thousands of draftsmen working on a vehicle. Thousands, right? Doing all, drafting all the parts and all the assemblies, working with the studio and all this. And it took a long time. It took years to make a vehicle. Now, when I was working on vehicles, we went from clay to first production in 24 months. And we worked on 3 different platforms. And you only needed 450 engineers, including manufacturing engineers. So you had the design engineers, the designers, the studio designers, and the manufacturing engineers, the design engineers, and the studio engineers. That totality was about 450, working on 3 different platforms. Now, some of that was shared componentry. There was a similar theme, but from clay to first production, 24 months. Now, so if you fast forward to way the automakers, especially in the United States, designed cars in the 50s or the 60s or even the 70s. And then all of a sudden compare it to the late 90s. So the 70s to the late 90s. So over a 20-year period was radically different. Radically different. And that may be what's going to happen here, where you don't need as many draftsmen to work on a vehicle. You need thousands. Now to develop 3 vehicles, you only need 450 engineers and designers. So I think this is what's going to happen in corporate. And this is what I call the AI shock. Now, when that does happen, the question is, will the economy pie grow or shrink? Will the aggregate demand of the economy grow or shrink? Back in the draftsman days of the 70s, when computerization was coming on, was becoming a more common theme in the 80s, these individuals could transfer over to CAD and CAM. Not all of them did. And these individuals either retired or went into other industries. But this CAD computer-aided design was something that was affecting a thin slice of the economy, mostly automotive. It also affected architecture, but when it comes to the main job disruption, it was in automotive. But when you're talking about AI, this main job disruption is everything. Everybody, all at the same time. And I think because of that, it's different than shifting from drafting on the board to drafting in the computer. And so because of the ferocity of the change and how broad the change is with AI, aggregate demand is probably going to go down. Now that's my take on it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. And I listen to a lot of business news, and I haven't heard anyone really articulate it in those terms. You know, they talk about CapEx is going up and they have to offset it by reducing labor and all that, but they're not like listening. They're not like paying attention to the history of computerization in the economy, in corporations. What worked, what didn't. And I think that there's this rush to AI. There's gonna be a lot of mistakes, a lot of wasted money. And the reality is that if you do it a little bit incrementally, you're going to improve your operations and maintain customers and have good product. But if you rush it, what's probably going to happen is that the product quality is going to go down. Your quality of employees are going to go down. And because there's so much disruption taking place, aggregate demand is going to go down. And once that happens, then the analysts on Wall Street are going to go, your revenue stream is going to go down, even though you're maintaining a good cost structure. And so they're going to downgrade this, they're going to downgrade the stock. And when they downgrade that stock, instead of it trading at 15 times multiple, now it's only going to trade at 10 times multiple. So the stock market is going to start going down. But before the stock market goes down, it's going to go up. So what's going to happen is there's going to be AI development. Stock market's going to go up because, oh, you're becoming more and more efficient. Oh, and there's a sweet spot where actually revenues might actually increase. Then all of a sudden, something happens where the unemployment becomes structural because of AI. And when that unemployment becomes structural, then the aggregate demand starts to fall. Analysts put downgrades on stocks, and then all of a sudden, there's a free fall in the market. This could be the great deflationary spiral that many economists have been anticipating. All right, so again, it's really important to pay attention to the energy shocks that are developing because of the war in Iran or with Iran, the shocks from AI, the shocks with munitions, the inability to speed up the production of our munitions. Now think about this for a second. We have people saying we need to speed up our AI and our processes and become more efficient, but no one's talking about we can only make 79 Tomahawk missiles a year. We went through that in one day of operations. And to replace 1 day of operations takes 1 year to make. That's because Lockheed and other defense contractors didn't design the manufacturing line to be able to produce more missiles per hour. Why? Because they wanted to keep the piece price really high and keep their investment in manufacturing low. So now we have a problem. We can't have a sustained war in Asia trying to protect the first island change. If we had a war with China and it lasted more than 30 or 60 days, we would run out of missiles. And that's a fact. That's not like conjecture. We can't sustain the way the military designed our industrial complex, and their war plans is based on smart technology using very expensive equipment with the assumption that it would be very lethal, very accurate, and it would only last a very short amount of time. But what happens when it's sustained? When it's a sustained war, we can't use it. We can't. We run out of munitions. It's a big problem. And it's generals that have been developing war plans and developing the supply chain for these weapon systems for decades that failed the American taxpayer. So we hear in the news, oh, you got to be faster with AI. You got to increase your processes. You got to, so, you know, we're more efficient as a corporation and the CEO gets a better stock option. Meanwhile, employees get laid off. But we're not really paying attention to that we need to actually improve the efficiency of making weapons, like the Tomahawk missile, be able to make 79 an hour instead of 79 a year. I mean, think about it. It's not that complicated to make a Tomahawk missile. It's purely because they didn't break up the processes along an assembly line, even though that assembly line most likely would have been much more expensive for Lockheed or whoever is the main contractor for the Tomahawk missile. I think it's Lockheed, but I could be wrong. But the point is the same. They didn't invest in the proper manufacturing line to be able to kick out these missiles quickly. And when you kick out the missiles quickly, instead of spending $3 to $4 million a missile, you're spending only $20,000 a missile because every 90 seconds is a new missile coming offline. So these people, we're not focusing on the real thing. And if we lose in the Asian theater, we will lose our way of life in the United States. And so it increases the probability of tactical nukes. See, if you run out of munitions and your adversary ends up taking ground in the Pacific theater, our adversary would be China. We may actually need to prevent them from getting into the second and third island chain zone. We may need to use tactical nukes because we ran out of munitions, because we were so focused on AI. We're so focused on, let's just spend so much money in corporate on AI and not really actually think about increasing our manufacturing capability to have a sustained war effort in the Pacific. We lose the Pacific, we lose our way of life in the United States. It's that simple. But people are stupid. People will continue to make mistakes, and Bloomberg will continue to sell everybody down the river, talking to all these money managers that think they really know about the real world once they don't. Most of them never built anything in their life, not even a spreadsheet. So that's my take on what's going on. And if you take this from a 50,000 foot view of all these different variables of shocks, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they align just right to amplify a curse that's coming this year. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great supplements that I offer. Now, why should you be getting them? Well, it helps support the work that I do. All these videos are for free, so I can explain what I think is happening in the world. But by taking the supplements, you're going to slow down the aging process. These are supplements that I use every day as part of a protocol to slow down the aging process. Now, you don't have to do everything I do, but if you use them regularly based on your affordability. You're going to improve your health. Omega-3 will help with your cardiovascular health. Omega-3 brings down inflammation and controls that lipid profile, brings down LDL levels, increases your HDL level. Now, by bringing down inflammation, you're reducing problems with your vascular system. When you have high inflammation, the intima of your vessels will start to tear, have micro tears, and that's how you start building up plaque. Now, you want to control your LDL levels because high concentrations of LDL become oxidized, and when you have oxidized LDL, that ends up forming plaque. So you want to bring down that inflammation and bring down LDL. Omega-3 does that for you. Super important to take every day. All right? You don't want heart disease. Heart disease sucks. All right? Please go to my store and get lignans. Lignans also brings down inflammation. It soaks up free radicals, helps the immune system and the endocrine system and your cardiovascular system. Another thing, by bringing down inflammation regularly, you're helping your brain function. You're reducing the chances of building up amyloidosis, and you're reducing the chances of early onset of dementia. Now, ashwagandha root brings down cortisol levels and helps to control your blood glucose levels. That's important because you're bringing down that inflammation that's produced by high glucose content in your blood. So you want to bring that down. You're bringing down the cortisol level, so you're helping with your immune system. Chronic cortisol elevation in your body actually ages you quicker, suppresses your immune system, and affects your tissues negatively. Well, you want to control your cortisol levels. So taking ashwagandha root is really important to help to boost up that immune system and help with your cardiovascular system. Because if you have too much inflammation at the vascular level, plaque formation. Turmeric brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals. When you're soaking up free radicals, your tissues are better, your mitochondria is better, you have more energy. But also by soaking up free radicals at the vascular level, you're reducing the concentrations of oxidized LDL, which means that you're reducing plaque formation. And also by soaking up free radicals and bringing down inflammation at the brain level, you're helping with brain function. So you want to stack these together for the synergistic benefit. You can take them separately, but it works better if you take them together. So get the ashwagandha root, the turmeric, and the lignans. Take them together. They'll help your immune system, help with brain function, help with your cardiovascular system. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. And guess what? If you use discount 5, you get $5 off. Make sure you go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the supplements. They work. It will help to improve your health. And if you take them the way I keep on telling everybody to take them, you will slow down the aging process. All right, it looks like UAE is firing more missiles. I'm sorry. UAE saying Iran is firing more missiles and drones. Let's listen into live now.
As we get those live images. Right now, what I want to do is pop up this post, though, as we are following some breaking news coming in out of the United Arab Emirates, and all of this related to the situation with Iran. Now, Trey Yingst, of course, over at Fox News, saying that the UAE air defense is currently engaging in incoming Iranian missiles and drones. That is according to the Ministry of Defense for the United Arab Emirates.
All right, what's important is as this is happening, because this is breaking news, oil is not responding at the moment, and neither is natural gas. They are continuing to slowly decline, not rapidly, just slow decline in the energy markets right now.
Following that, as we will here on Live Now from Fox, checking in with the UAE Defense Ministry for all of the latest information. Right now, we do appear to be getting a live image that's coming in from the Oval Office here. I want to pop up the audio and listen in live as the camera gets set up to hear from President Trump.
It's good that he won this one. Hello. Hello, everybody. We have great athletes with us today, and we have some young great athletes, some award-winning athletes, and it's an honor to have everybody. We're thrilled to have so many young athletes here at the White House, Oval Office, on this magnificent spring day, and it is indeed a beautiful day to celebrate America's athletic traditions and champions physical fitness and all of those things that I work so hard at on a personal basis. I work out so much, like about 1 minute a day max, if I'm lucky. I want to thank Secretaries Pete Hegseth, that just gave a great news conference with General Raisin Kane. And that was really good, and you're doing very well. They don't like playing games with us. They don't like it at all. You'll see that. As time goes by, you're going to see it. I think you've already seen it. We basically wiped out their military in about 2 weeks. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's done an incredible job. Scott Turner, that everybody knows, and a legend, Linda McMahon, head of education in our country, and she's doing a fantastic job. They all are. We're also pleased to be joined by respected sports leaders and members of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. We really have some incredible people. If I go who's who, Bryson, how many do we have on the council total?
Oh, it's got to be upwards of 30, actually.
Yeah, lots, and all top.
Yes, sir.
If they weren't really good, we don't allow them. I mean, you're going to be really good. Like Gary Player, as an example, he won 168 tournaments over a very average career. You know, think of it. He won 168 tournaments, 18 majors, 9 and 9 senior. He has more championships than.
All right, I don't really care about that. So let's switch over to some other news that's happening here. Let's listen into this legal earthquake that's happening with the Supreme Court ruling. This was published 3 hours ago.
What do you get when you add an ensemble of award-winning performers plus a Pulitzer Prize?
For decades, the Democrats have been using racial discrimination to draw these crazily drawn lines to try to protect Democrats. And now those crazy jigsaw puzzle lines they've been using to protect members of the Democrat caucus in Congress can no longer be used. And here's the practical effect of what's going to happen. Because we are going to eliminate using race to draw these congressional lines. It means that, especially in these southern states, we're going to add maybe a dozen more Republicans to the United States Congress. Texas is going to add 5 Republican seats. Florida's going to add 4 Republican seats. There'll be many more in other southern states. And we will finally make those districts look a whole lot more compact. It's time for the Democrats to stop being such hypocrites and finally have everybody across the country to stop using race as a reason to draw congressional lines.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott with Maria on Sunday discussing his state's redistricting efforts while the nationwide debate ramps up. The new Texas map officially passing just last week after the Supreme Court overturned a previous ruling blocking it from being implemented. The decision could add as many as 5 House Republican seats ahead of the midterms. I want to bring in Texas Congressman Chip Roy. He chairs the House Freedom Caucus Policy. Congressman, it's always great to speak with you, sir. And this is another Supreme Court decision on a Louisiana state map that's causing another ripple effect for more states. This crossed late yesterday from SCOTUS. That's going to examine their congressional districts. It could give the GOP another House seat in Louisiana. We have Mr. Scalise coming up later on the program. But I want to get your reaction to all of this, because as this fight continues, we're pushing up against not just primaries, but also November.
Well, Governor Abbott has it exactly right. What we've been dealing with for years now is mandatory racial gerrymandering that was being, pressed onto the American people via the Voting Rights Act. I've been working on this for years as a lawyer. We had the first part of the Voting Rights Act that was struck down about 13 years ago, the Section 5 preclearance forced upon states. And now you've got Section 2, where we've had this requirement that race be used. And look, Chief Justice Roberts said the best way to end racial discrimination is to end racial discrimination. So now you're going to be able to have maps that are drawn that are not having to be forced into a crazy jigsaw puzzle, the way the governor was describing it, because of the use of race. Now, obviously, gerrymandering has existed since the very beginning of time, looking at its very name. It goes back to our founding. And so the maps are always going to be a little bit crazy because there's political powers. But for my Democrat colleagues that are squealing about Texas going to roughly a 30 to 8 mix or 28 to 10 mix, look at California. Out of all of its districts, I think there are currently, about 8 or 9 Republicans, and it's going down to 4 or 5. Look at all of New England, literally all of New England. There's not a single Republican district. So the fact is that Texas is just, adjusting itself to play the game Democrats have been playing. And it's all political, right? That's political gerrymandering. We can debate that, but it shouldn't be done by race. The Supreme Court got it right. And frankly, Clarence Thomas was the most right, as usual, when he said that, it's Section 2, it shouldn't have anything to do with redistricting at all. So the Supreme Court got it right. Texas will get its maps right now.
I want to ask you about this because I mentioned November and the midterms, and this is all connected because Karl Rove had an opinion piece in the Journal. He said to save the midterms, Republicans need to go on the offensive. And he said if Republicans fight the midterm on the defensive, they will suffer potentially sweeping defeats. They've got to stay on offense and create or save as many seats as possible. Is that a conversation that's happening within the caucus?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Republicans understand that right now. I mean, look, if the elections were held today, we have concerns about what that would look like. But the maps are one piece of that puzzle, and we're working on it nationwide to try to get those aligned so that red states are actually doing what they need to do to push back, because blue states have been gerrymandering for years in a way that's, I think shifted the balance of power incorrectly. But on the policy side, we need to go on offense. But we also have to remember what we've already accomplished. Working alongside President Trump, securing the border, stopping the flow, reasserting our military so that now enlistments and recruiting as high as they've ever been, resetting the stage globally and reasserting ourselves in the Western Hemisphere in terms of the actions in Venezuela, the tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill, the reforms we put into Medicaid, the reforms we put into SNAP and food stamps so that we could save money and save almost $2 trillion in mandatory spending, trying to beat back on the explosive growth of government, the fraud that we've been seeking to root out, the DOGE that's been implemented, the hundreds of thousands of bureaucrats that have been removed. All of this over time will reduce interest rates, reduce inflation, but we've got a long way to go. All of this is stuff that is going to go back to help hardworking American families. But we got to keep dismantling the regulatory state. We've got to stop the Green New Scam subsidies. We got about half of them cut back last year in the big, beautiful bill. Let's talk about what we've done. Let's finish strong. Like, I agree with that. Let's go on offense. Let's do some things over the next 5 or 6 months to help American families. If we do another reconciliation package, let's make healthcare affordable with strong health savings accounts so that people can afford healthcare instead of insurance companies making all the money. There's a lot of things we can do if we just finish strong.
And you've been very vocal and you've been pushing the issue of visa fraud, which I definitely want to get to you with, but I want to bring in my colleague, Liz Peek. She's got a question for you. Liz, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. I'm really glad that you mentioned a reconciliation bill because it seems to me that the Republican Party did not do a good job of selling the American public on the big, beautiful bill. What can we do in the reconciliation bill to kind of amend that? What are we going to offer people in the next few months prior to November that'll really get their attention?
Yeah, I love that question because I think we did a lot of good things in the first bill that we haven't necessarily marketed as well as we should. So I think we should build off of that, resell to the American people some of the things we did. But let's go straight to the heart of the hardworking American family that is still struggling at home. And what are they struggling with? The ability to afford homes, the ability to afford health care, the ability to make ends meet. And let's focus on that. You want a massive middle-class tax cut? Let's give them the ability to afford health care with an expansive health savings account that you can use for direct primary care, where you control and have the dollars at your disposal, that you can shop in a market, where you can go use health sharing ministries, where you can go direct to a doctor, rather than being beholden to insurance companies, which have a stranglehold let's be very clear, on the back of Obamacare, which we should never have implemented the way we did. But let's open up the markets. Let's free it up for the American people. You want a boon to the economy? Let's actually fix healthcare, which is the anchor, the anvil around the neck of the American economy. That's what I would do if I'd go on offense. Now, will Republicans follow that? Not sure. We're having that debate, but I think we need to do that. I think we could do some other things. Ted Cruz is talking about indexing capital gains, things that we could do for, again, middle-class families that are struggling. But, you know, we've got some work to do. The one thing we should not do is just use reconciliation to spend more money, which is, I think, what the default will be for a lot of members of Congress.
I have to say, I agree with you on that one, Congressman. And again, you were talking about so many national issues, especially affordability, but I know this matters to the people of Texas. We're going to be watching, of course, your runoff for Attorney General, May 26th. We're going to be watching all the work that you've been doing. It's been great work. Congressman Chip Roy, always a pleasure.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the silver gel. The silver gel, you can get it in two ways. You can get it in the quick dispenser or the tube form. Use them the same way. It's dual purpose. You can put it in a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn. It'll help to heal it quicker, about a third of the time. Why does it work that way? It keeps the lesion clean. Now, you can apply it on your skin daily as a daily treatment to your skin to improve the health of the skin. In addition, you can use it during the cold season. If someone around you is not feeling well or you're not feeling well because of the cold season, put it on your hand. It'll stay active for 5.5 hours. You can put it around your eyes, around your nose, around your mouth, around your ears. Lightly coat your nostrils. It'll stay active for 5.5 hours. If you have a runny nose, it'll also help to dry that up by putting some of the gel in your nostrils. Lightly coat it. And if you have a sore nose because of the cold season, it'll also help to reduce that soreness over time. But it's important to use. It neutralizes. That's why it's so important to have. So please go to my store. Make sure you have the structural nano silver gel at home, at work. You never know when you need it. And when you need it and you don't have it, things get worse. So please go to my store and get the toothpaste, the structural nano silver toothpaste. It has no fluoride. It'll whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help the health of your gum line, reduce inflammation at the gum line. And with good oral hygiene, you're helping your cardiovascular health and your valvular health. And because it has the structural nano silver, it will help to neutralize. Super important, especially during the cold season. Now, during the allergy season and the cold season, it's important to stock up on your structural nano silver lozenges and drops. These lozenges or drops way better than other lozenges that are not structural nano silver. Structural nano silver will neutralize, right? Now, you can get the drops in cherry flavor or in honey and lemon. Get a few bags for your household. Be prepared. But not just does it work for the allergy in the cold season, but when you're cleaning in the garage or in the basement or cleaning around the house or working in the yard, and you start getting that irritation, take them right away. But you can take them prophylactically to prevent irritation, especially when you're cleaning in a dusty area. So it's really important to have available and use them. You can get the lozenges, which are larger than the drops. You can get them in Manuka honey and in orange splash. The orange splash is also fortified with vitamin C. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver lozenges and drops. They're very high quality. And again, you use them for the cold season, the allergy season, and when you're cleaning around the house. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Make sure you use discount 5 and you get $5 off. You spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. All righty. Let's listen into Bloomberg here.
Wasn't it in the payment space? And would you say that it just was too late to sort of change with the times and other companies in that space started to eat its lunch?
I think I mean, definitely there are a lot of new players that are coming in, Stripe being one of them, Adyen coming in with the more non-branded kind of offering. So there are lapses, particularly the challenges around the branded business for PayPal. But I wouldn't say the battle is lost, right? Just the scale and the size of this company and the two-sided network, these are very enviable attributes. And I think there's still room for that. One thing I would kind of allude to is the whole job cut situation as well. We've been getting a lot of questions around that.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's an unspecified number of job cuts, right? Or did they say how many they're looking to let go?
So I saw a news line saying 20% job cuts.
Wow.
And PayPal's like 24,000 plus employees at the end of last year. And that could mean around 4,500 jobs being culled. And I mean, the job cuts technically are a double-edged signal, right? On one hand, they show that management is serious about taking costs and complexity out of the business. But on the other hand, when a company is cutting this deeply, investors tend to ask whether this is just margin repair or whether it actually fixes the growth problem. Basically, PayPal does not need to be smaller just for the sake of being smaller, right? It needs to be faster, more focused, and more competitive at checkout. So that's the question, will they be able to deliver on that?
Diksha, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Diksha Guerra, Senior FinTech and Payments Analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence, giving the latest on PayPal. Again, you're right. It's Alexis, it was arguably one of the first fintech companies out there. But again, it's such a technological race there.
It is.
You have to always worry about the person who's in their garage in Palo Alto coming up with better technology.
Exactly. And it did have that sort of cool factor that I feel like it's lost a little bit of that mojo over the years.
I use Zelle Venmo. That's what
right. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So Apple Pay also a lot. So
more and more for me.
Yeah. And I'm kind of shocked when I go on a website or doing any kind of commerce and Apple Pay is not an option, where I got to pull out my credit card, enter that in. I'm like, dudes, get with it.
Like the olden days?
Yes, exactly. I mean, I'm not like some, tech aficionado, but at least I can use the Apple Pay. So anyway, so we'll see where PayPal fits into all of that. President Trump out with a bunch of social media posts, repeats praise for the stock market records during his administration, reiterates the world is in trouble or would have been in trouble if Iran has a nuclear weapon. He says, can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Praises the World Cup for ticket sales. So we got a lot going on out there. So President Trump out there on...
Apparently also direct flights from the U.S. to Venezuela are back, according to the president and his social media posts.
Okay. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that that try to take advantage of that. Like people like Charlie Pellet who like to go to these crazy...
Just travels the world.
...vacations and go to places you would never think of. That's where people like Charlie Pellet go, those adventurous travelers. I'm not one of them. Just sitting on a beach, put me in front of a craps table and I'm in good shape.
All right, let's take a look at some other news here. Victor Hansen just published another video about, I think it's Comey. So let's listen into Victor.
How to find the right car for you. Go to cars.com. Look at the car you like.
Ciao.
Ciao. Find your next possibility on cars.com. The gold days of Grubhub Plus are upon us, but with great deals come gold diggers.
That's a big bag, Gary.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hansen for the Daily Signal. James Comey, the former director of the FBI, was again indicted recently, this time for putting on his social media a picture of seashells that were arranged to convey a message threatening Donald Trump. And the message was 8647. In other words, however you defined 86, I grew up in the 1960s and 70s where the term was used to eject somebody from a bar. But over the ensuing decades, people had used it in an eliminationist fashion. The mafia would get rid of somebody, 86 them, kill them. But here's the problem. James Comey says that he was just walking along the beach and he happened to see this message and he didn't quite know what it meant. But why would he put something on social media if he didn't know what it meant? And how in the world would the FBI director, who's supposed to be all knowledgeable of all the terms that gangsters use or bars use, comes with the field, and he claims he didn't know what he was doing. But why would he do it in the first place? More importantly, we have had 3 assassination attempts of Donald Trump. So when you look at the case ostensibly, you say, well, what's so wrong in the free speech America just putting out a seashell message? Well, nothing is wrong if that's what it was, but we don't know what it was. In other words, we don't know to what degree he might have made the message, or he deliberately wanted to convey a message in a climate in which the President of the United States is in constant jeopardy of being shot, and he was the former FBI director. Now, most of our legal eagles, even left and right, agree that it's a weak case in the First Amendment. Under the First Amendment, it will be thrown out. But there's another wrinkle to it, and that is, we were told this was a week's, even a month-long investigation. Ostensibly, it didn't take any time to investigate. A seashell photo, all you do is look at it. Maybe you talk to his family or whatever, and the case, there's the evidence. But it seems as if they were subpoenaed personal tweets, I don't know, correspondence with his family and friends. The point of all that apparently is the DOJ is trying to see if he contextualized what he was doing. If he said something like, this is neat, I threatened the president with a vicarious method that kind of exculpates me, but it still gets the message. I don't know if that happened, but there's something more to the case, because I don't think otherwise they would have brought it. Finally, this particular case may not go to trial. It may or may not, depending on what the investigation has found, but it's in a larger context. It's really disturbing. Remember that he went before the House Judiciary and Oversight Committee, and he testified about all the aspects of the Russian collusion case and all the misadventures of the FBI. On 245 occasions, James Comey said, I don't know. I don't remember. I can't think of anything. In other words, he deliberately stonewalled a congressional investigation while he was under oath. If any of you listening were to have, I don't know, not reported $10,000 and the IRS asked you about the conditions of how you earned it, and you said, I don't know, I can't remember, I don't think that would last very long. In addition to that, you remember that he had a private conversation shortly before he was fired with the President of the United States. After that conversation was over, in which he claims that Donald Trump said, go easy on former national security designate Michael Flynn, and Trump says he explicitly asked him if Trump himself was the object of an investigation, which we know he was, and Comey had assured him that he was not. Comey went out and on an FBI pad, he memorialized that, at least his version. And then he deliberately took a third-party friend and gave him that message, that description of the conversation, with the sole intent to leak it to the New York Times. And then when the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, looked at that, he claimed that a private conversation with the President of the United States covering some of the most intimate matters of governance was not classified. He said it was confidential. And so there were never any indictments lodged against James Comey on 245 occasions not telling the truth, leaking what should have been a classified document that the government owned and he took out himself. He did not put it in the FBI filing system. He took it, as he said, kind of an insurance policy, and then he deliberately leaked it to the New York Times. I could add a couple of epilogues to the James Comey story. In addition to all this, you got to remember that he was the architect of Operation Crossfire Hurricane. The FBI hired Christopher Steele as a contractor and paid him money, even though that they even according to the testimony of FBI investigators, they could not corroborate much or most of the Christopher Steele dossier. They couldn't. And yet they used that dossier by the testimony of Andrew Comey's successor. They used that dossier to get FISA warrants against U.S. citizens. An erroneous document was used to what? Confuse the judge as if there really was some type of Russian collusion, and therefore they had a right to spy on people like Carter Page. And then we get back to the 2016 election when Hillary Clinton used a private home-brewed server, against the law to do that. If you're Secretary of State, might have been a misdemeanor, might have been a felony, but depending on how it was interpreted. Number two, her husband, Bill Clinton, met the Attorney General of the United States, Loretta Lynch, kind of on an accidental private plane rendezvous at the Phoenix airport, right in the middle of this investigation of Bill Clinton's wife. Then we also learned that when these emails were subpoenaed, they were destroyed by Hillary Clinton, and the servers themselves were destroyed. And Comey, and this is very interesting, Comey was the director of the FBI. He was not the Attorney General, but he took on the role of both FBI Director Investigator and Department of Justice prosecutor to adjudicate himself. In other words, he presents evidence to the Attorney General, who then adjudicates whether it's worthy to go to trial, and that person was James Comey. And of course, he said that while Hillary had broken the law, no normal prosecutor would have furthered the case and brought her an indictment. What am I getting at? I don't know to the degree which the DOJ will be able to file an indictment that sticks and will have an actual trial. But that said, what James Comey did to the FBI in numerous occasions was a betrayal of his office and a betrayal of the United States. And just to finish, he was not an isolated case. Robert Mueller, his predecessor, testified before the House committee and said he did not know much at all about the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was the sole catalyst that prompted his appointment as special counsel. He said under oath he didn't even know much about it, couldn't talk about it. I just mentioned his successor, James Comey. James Comey's successor, interim chief of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, on 4 occasions lied, 2 of them under oath to federal investigators. He lied about leaking material about an investigation. And finally, Christopher Wray, the 4th FBI director in succession, he didn't tell us the complete truth about the role of the FBI on January 6th and the aftermath, the role and the number of FBI informants who were there on January 6th, the exact role of the FBI surveilling traditional Catholics. He said it was an isolated case. It was not. And he didn't tell us why the FBI was going to school board meetings, likely on the prompt of, to monitor parents on the prompt of teachers' unions. So we've had a miserable, despicable record of 4 FBI directors in succession that have either lied to Congress or broken the law or lied to investigators or haven't come full and told the truth to a congressional committee under oath. And so whatever we find out with James Comey, he's got a lot of culpability, moral, if not legal. Thank you very much. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the multivitamin and probiotics. They are the foundation of the anti-aging protocol. The multivitamin that I have will be easy to digest for you, and you stack it with the probiotics. Now, the probiotics, you can get it in the powdered form, which is the way I take it, or the veggie cap form. Now, either one, very high quality. And what this will do when you take it every day is help with the health of your gut. It'll improve the gut biome. It'll allow you to absorb your nutrients, reduce inflammation at the gut level, improve your immune system, improve your skin health, and also improve your metabolism and brain function. Good health starts at the gut. It's really important to take a good probiotic every day. So please go to my store and get the Veggie Cap version of the probiotic or the powdered version of the probiotic and stack it with the multivitamin that I have on my store. It's easy to digest and it gives you all the nutrients you need to start that foundation. Then you add to that foundation. That's the first pillar is the Max 35 or Cleanse to boost up the innate immune system. The second pillar is C60 to soak up free radicals. The third pillar is the turmeric, the ashwagandha, and lignans to help with your immune system and cardiovascular system. And Boomer Boost to rev up your energy levels and metabolism. It's a very strong, very powerful anti-aging protocol that's affordable. Structural nano silver soap that I have in stock, peppermint, very high quality. It'll help the health of your pores for your skin, and it helps to neutralize. Why? Because it's made from structural nano silver. Myotrol, super important to take if you're 40 years of age or older. Why? Because it will help with the gene expression to build muscle and maintain muscle. It'll reduce atrophy. If you're an athlete, younger or older, you'll also benefit from Myotrol because it'll help you to build muscle for your sport. This has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression to build muscle and maintain muscle. Clarity Factor, very powerful neurostack to improve your brain function. It gets rid of that brain fog, allows you to concentrate, and if you take this regularly and you drink it with filtered water, what's going to happen is over time, you're going to have positive neuroplasticity. You'll have more dendritic connections between your neurons, and your neurons will be firing faster, you'll be thinking faster, you'll have better memory. Taking Clarity Factor is super important to improve your brain function. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. Please use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. You can use that discount as many times as you want. All right, let's listen into Bloomberg.
AI that interacts with the real world in addition to humanoid robots. So there's that appeal. But based on what I've looked at, if you look at the number of trips completed by these Waymo robot taxis today, they're still tiny.
Right.
So Uber and Lyft combined complete about 10 million trips per day here in the US. And Waymo handles just roughly 71,000 trips per day. So that's a share of about less than 1%.
Right.
So it's still small and it's it's still growing. Now to your question on New York. So Waymo began testing, I think, in September of last year, but they've ended their testing because their permits weren't renewed in March recently.
Okay.
So it's mostly on the regulatory
I
front.
mean, they let them lapse or they couldn't get them?
Yeah, so apparently the DMV and the city DOT did not approve the permit.
Okay.
This is all political in some way because there's huge pushback from the taxi unions and all that. Obviously, you can imagine the fear of labor displacement coming from robo-taxis and the like.
Now sometimes my Uber is a yellow cab.
Yes, exactly.
Because they're all they've melded.
Yep, they have. 30 seconds left. Sion, Tesla, where do they fit in here?
Well, they're clearly the outlier. As they're the only company right now doing everything completely in-house.
Okay.
From vehicle manufacturing to the self-driving tech development to running their own ride-hailing app and their charging network. But again, I'd like to look at all of these companies based on two key metrics, number of cities and their fleet size. So for Tesla, today, I think they are only operational in 3 Texas cities with a fleet size of 60 vehicles, as opposed to Waymo, which has about over 3,000 vehicles, and they are live right now in 11 cities.
Yep. All right.
So
We'll stay on
still
top
too
of it.
early to call the rest, I guess.
I did it. I'm on the cutting edge of technology. Xian Huang, thank you so much for joining us here. He's from BNEF. He's the analyst covering autonomous vehicles. And we'll see. I don't. At 4:40 every morning, I get in a car with some dude I've never met before.
And you trust him?
I don't know. I mean, I guess how's it any different from
you make a good
computer?
point.
And I kind of get here. S&P up 52 points. The Dow up 245. The Nasdaq up 230 points. That's 0.9% of 1%. We'll have more coming up. This is Bloomberg. Good morning.
All right, let's listen into LNG exports fall to 2-year low for global exports.
Struggling to find finance and accounting talent? Join the growing number of companies embracing outsourced finance and accounting.
That's a very good question. I think in a few weeks ago, they tried to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, negotiating directly potentially with Iran at the time when Iran wanted to start this new system, this new equation of a tolling boost system. And so some countries were ready to play the game. And what the US blockade did was to delegitimize and negate this new equation. I think right now, Qatar might try to have this safe passage. I think some countries will wait to see that it's really secure, especially for tankers, commodity tankers that are more expensive. I think they will still wait a little bit.
Help us with Arabian risk, I should say. Who is on Qatar's side? Is it Saudi Arabia is linked to Doha versus the UAE? Explain that politics.
So I think Qatar has been the closest Gulf countries to Iran. And that has been very different than Saudi Arabia or the UAE.
I did not know.
Because Qatar and Iran are sharing the world's largest gas field. And Qatar has always depended on Iran also for the Strait of Hormuz and has always taken a more a perspective of appeasement, negotiation with Iran.
So, Leslie, how does the world open up the Strait of Hormuz? It's not the Secretary of Defense saying it's open because we all see the same maps and the ships are just sitting there. How do you actually open it up? How does that happen, do you think?
So, as you know, we have 2 blockades, and either it's like 1, 2, 3, we lift it together. I mean, right now, the thing is that we're in a stalemate.
Yep.
And I think the US is trying to change this equation and try to move things to fasten, because the reality is that Iran is good at negotiation, good at propaganda, good at expansion through the proxies in the region, but not good at winning wars. They are good at inflicting damage. And right now, I think the US government is trying to end the way Iran is trying to exhaust, not only its own economy, but the global economy, and trying to change the equation.
So in reality, it seems like, again, we're all learning the same maps of the Strait of Hormuz. We now have a pretty good understanding. It's a very narrow passageway, and it seems like Iran holds most, if not all, the cards in terms of safe passage through there. If I'm an insurance company, I'm not letting my ship go through there.
Yeah, I think eventually what the US is hoping is that other countries will join this kind of coalition. So the US is taking the leadership, and some courageous insurance companies and allies from the US will take the risk. I think that there is a military strategy here to protect the tankers with air capabilities. I mean, and going through the Oman path.
Okay, the Oman Pass, let's bring it back to the Secretary who has to deal with the politics, why the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Admiral Cooper and others have to deal with our military as well. Link natural gas and your expertise, Leslie Guzman, into how America really doesn't want to be in the war. America's joining what I think in Patrick McHenry's old congressional district, it's $4, $5 a gallon. In LA, it's $7 a gallon. Link the American reality into the geopolitics of the Gulf.
Yeah. So I think luckily, the US is a large, one of the world's largest oil and gas producer now. So it means that the US is the most isolated right now compared to many other countries around the world. Doesn't mean that there is not a risk of inflation, higher gasoline prices. But if you look at Henry Hub prices are below $3 per million BTU. So, generally speaking, US economy is in a much better position than the rest of the world.
So again, if the Strait were to be magically opened tomorrow, how do you think oil prices would react? And is there, I guess, a longer term premium now put into oil coming out of that part of the world, do you think?
So generally speaking, I think markets have been optimistic. They are waiting, 1 week, 2 weeks, like that things may start to be more hopeful and open up. I think, now by mid-June, that's kind of the new thinking that things could really start to flow again, but that definitely by the summer, there will be an improvement.
So I guess, who kind of blinks here? Is it a ship owner? Is it an insurance company? Is it a captain on the bridge of one of these ships? How does this actually happen, do you think?
It's going to be a mix, but I think it's going to be countries, like allies from the United States that are going to show a good gesture and say, okay, we trust that we have the confidence to go.
But within all your abilities and skills, the entire orbit, including the press conference we just heard, circles around the president. Do you see a president who in any way wants to do any of the processes you did at Tufts years ago? I just don't see the linkage of Kissinger's 1,200 pages, we all read it, diplomacy with this president of the United States.
But again, I think that, the surrender, we don't know if it will happen or not, but I think it's too early to call it, a quagmire. I think many outcomes are still possible. And I think the negotiation are still, a possibility, as well as kinetic restart the war. Both are on the table. And it's going to depend on what Iran also wants to do. I think, the conditions of ending the nuclear and so on, that's still on the table.
Okay, but Paul wants to get in here with more intelligent questions. As simple as I can, at what price of a gallon of gas does this dialogue change?
I think for now, I see a lot of determination from the president, and he's not willing to back down.
Liquefied natural gas.
I call it national gas too.
I've done LNG. That's why they have this nice acronym, LNG. That seems to be an increasingly valuable commodity here. Talk to us about the LNG market, because the U.S. is a big player in that.
Yeah. So definitely right now, the U.S. is a big winner with LNG. So the U.S. was already the world's largest LNG supplier. And we have the 9th liquefaction project that just started last week. And all the liquefaction plants in the U.S. are running at full capacity. The other second largest supplier is Qatar, which is right now unable to export any of its LNG. But, you started with how to make a lemonade out of sour lemons. I think Qatar is thinking ahead on how to transform this crisis into an opportunity by potentially changing its business model, moving away from the Strait of Hormuz. But at the end of the day, regaining the trust from the buyers will be key. But I think Qatar has the possibility to slow restart its liquefaction plant and then clear the glut, because we were in a glut in the LNG market.
Yep.
Meet Sarah and Henry. They just moved into their first home, which is just the beginning.
Right now, natural gas futures are trading at 2.775 and oil futures are trading at 101.64. I still think that the natural gas futures will continue to decline to 2.6 to 2.5. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. The collagen will help with your skin, your nails, your hair, your musculature, your bone density, even your joints. Take it every day to help improve your health. And if you have osteoarthritis, stack this with collagen. Now, collagen is a new product that I have on my store, and this can be taken separately or stacked with the collagen. And what this will do is help to remodel your joints for osteoarthritis and also sports injuries. What it does is it blocks the erosion enzymes of MMP3 and MMP13 to prevent further joint erosion. It also blocks inflammation by blocking EP4. It also blocks the pain gatekeeper NAV 1.7, and it also helps to recruit the ingredients you need to remodel the cartilage and remodel the cushioning of the joint. Now, if you take the collagen together, you will have the building blocks that helps speed up the process of remodeling the joint. So please go to my store and get the collagen and the collagen. Now, for temporary pain relief, get the Super Strong Relief. This will help with tension headaches, muscle pain, bruising, sprains, and also arthritis. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Super Strong Relief, the collagen, and the collagen. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift. Make sure you use discount 5 to save some money. You get $5 off. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. All right, let's listen into Trump taking questions from the press.
What I don't like about Iran is they'll talk to me with such great respect, and then they'll go on television, they'll say, we did not speak to the president. We did not, I just spoke to, we did not speak to the president. So they play games, but let me just tell you, they want to make a deal. And who wouldn't? When your military is totally gone, we could do anything we want to them. Who wouldn't? Please.
On the filibuster, Mr. President, you posted a lot about wanting to eliminate the filibuster. It hasn't happened. Are you disappointed in leaving?
Yeah, no, I'm disappointed. I like John a lot, but he has a couple of Republicans that are foolish people. A couple of them I like, a couple of them I can't stand, actually, if you want to know the truth. Although I am, according to CNN, 100% approval within the Republican Party. That's better than your record, Gary. I'm at 100% approval. Did you see the CNN poll? Nobody talks about it. CNN, I think the people that did that poll probably got fired. But within the Republican Party and MAGA, which is basically 100% of the party, I think, but 100%. No, I think that you're going to see some very interesting things. The filibuster, if you had it, we should have the Save America Act. We should have voter identification, voter ID. We should have proof of citizenship. We should have mail-in voting for the military and people that need it, but not for everybody. Because anytime you have mail-in voting, you're going to cheat. Cheat like dogs. And they have to cheat. You know, in all fairness to the Democrats, when you have men and women's sports, when you have open borders, when you have transgender mutilization, don't listen to this, kids, of your children, transgender mutilization of your children for everyone. When you have policies like that, you have to cheat. It's the only way they can win. And we shouldn't allow them to cheat. And we should terminate the filibuster, because if they get the chance, they'll do it in the first hour back.
Mr. President, thank you. When Iran is seeing 50% inflation, they've moved money from their sovereign
Their economy is crashing.
Would you allow their financial system then to fail?
Well, I guess so, because we're making it fail. Right?
Is that what it takes?
I hope it fails.
Is that what it takes?
You know why? Because I want to win. It takes getting pounded on by the military, I think, for more. But in addition to that, it is failing. You know, we have sanctions on them, tremendous sanctions. Scott Bessent's done a great job. We have sanctions that nobody's ever seen before. No, they're failing. Their currency is worthless. Their inflation is probably 150%. The real number is 150%. They aren't paying their soldiers. They can't pay their soldiers. The money is worthless. No, they should do the smart thing, you know. They should do the smart thing and because we don't want to go in and kill people. We really don't. I don't want to. I don't want to. It's too tough. Great people. I know the people. I have so many Iranian friends from New York and from other places over the years. They're great people. I don't want to kill those people.
Gas prices in the United States
Is it possible that you can talk about that?
Oh, wait, go ahead, finish.
Yeah, gas prices in the United States are $1.48 cents a gallon. You said they would. Will Project
They'll drop
Freedom-
lower than they were before.
Will Project Freedom escorting those ships make that happen?
Well, because so people don't realize some of these tankers hold two. One of them holds 4. I think it's the largest one in the world. That sucker is big. I've never seen anything like it. A ship. It's bigger than aircraft carriers, and yeah, it has a big impact. It's so much. You know, there are like 400 ships in there. 400. That in itself. Now, the best is when it ends and just neutralizes. But what's happening is people are learning to buy oil from the United States. I mean, they're making the trip, and they have safer. Probably it's a better product too, by the way. But they're learning to buy. They're changing their habits. So when I did this, I thought the market would go down 25%, and I thought that was a great deal if it did. If it went down 25%, I was satisfied. I said, because we cannot let these people have a nuclear weapon. They'll use it. We can't. I also thought oil would go up to 200, 250, maybe 300. And I knew it would be short term, but I thought it would go. I looked today, it's like at 102. And that's a very small price to pay for getting rid of a nuclear weapon from people that are really mentally deranged. Yeah.
President, just on politics.
The world is like, by the way, other presidents should have done this. 47 years they've been toying with these stupid people. In many cases, stupid people. This should have been done by Obama. He went the other way. He was giving them cash. He sent plane loads of Boeing 757, took the seats out and put green cash, 1.7 billion in the plane. Every bank in Virginia, DC, and Maryland was stripped of their cash. They took out all the cash from the banks. They put it into a plane, a Boeing 757 packed with cash, and they flew it to Iran, and they let these guys just, I don't know what the hell they did with it, but they took it and then gave them billions and billions of dollars and bribed them basically to be friends. And after giving them tens of billions of dollars, they screwed Obama, okay? That's not the way we play. No, we do it the old-fashioned way. And they should wave. They're very proud. Maybe you won't see a white flag, but essentially that's already what they are. They should wave the flag, the white flag of surrender. In hockey, they say, uncle, right? When are they gonna cry uncle? And they have another expression. If this were a fight, they would stop it. But you know, we have to go out and we have to do it. And it's very sad to see. Even shooting those boats, they've got 3, 4 guys. They got a little machine gun in front. They're shooting at one of our ships that's meant for it. It bounces, they don't even know they're being shot at. And then they take it out.
All right, that was President Donald Trump. He's speaking at the White House at a signing proclamation and taking some questions.
All right. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the heirloom barley or the gladiator barley. It'll help to bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, and help to detoxify your body. But you get one added benefit with the gladiator barley, and that is to build muscle. It's really important to take every day because by bringing down inflammation, soaking up free radicals, and detoxifying, you're helping your immune system, your endocrine system, your cardiovascular system, your brain function. You get a lot of benefits from taking gladiator barley. You get a month's supply of gladiator barley or heirloom barley in this container. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Again, heirloom barley and gladiator barley are similar, but you get one added benefit by taking the gladiator barley, and that's to build muscle. It's really important to detoxify your body regularly, soak up free radicals, and bring down inflammation. And by taking the heirloom barley and the gladiator barley, either one, you don't take them together, you're going to be able to recover after a workout quicker. And by bringing down inflammation, you're also helping your joint health. So please go to my store and get the barley, heirloom barley or gladiator barley. And you can take it separately, Boomer Boost, or take it with the gladiator barley or heirloom barley. Boomer Boost has 68 nutrients. It has a very comprehensive compound profile shown on the screen here. But you can see it on my website. You can take a look at the label in detail. But this is a very powerful supplement to slow down the aging process. What this will do is help with your musculature, help with your cardiovascular health, improve your brain function, rev up your metabolism, produce lots of energy, a steady supply of energy, no crashing. And by taking this regularly, you're helping your immune system and your endocrine system. And you can stack this in my protocol. And that protocol is multivitamin with the probiotic as the foundation. The first pillar, max 35-hour cleanse to boost up your innate immune system. Second pillar, C60 to soak up free radicals. Third pillar, the turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to help with your cardiovascular health and your immune system. And Boomer Boost to rev up your energy levels and your cellular metabolism. But you get other benefits when you stack this. And that is you're improving the immune system and the endocrine system, helping with brain function, getting better blood perfusion, controlling your A1C levels, bringing down inflammation. It's really important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Boomer Boost. You can take it separately, or you can stack it with the combo that I just mentioned, or you can stack it with the gladiator barley and the heirloom barley with the Boomer Boost. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Make sure they use discount 5 so you can save some money. You spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. But if you take that Boomer Boost and you stack it with the gladiator barley or the heirloom barley, you get a lot of benefits. Or if you take the Boomer Boost and you stack it with the anti-aging protocol that I just mentioned, you get a lot of benefits. So please go to my store. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com, and the link is in the description of this video. All right, let's listen into Bloomberg here.
All about giving a message that gives confidence to investors and shareholders that the scandal is behind them. And quite frankly, I think the CEO has to go.
So, all right, to give us the...
Right, maybe might they announce that today, that the CEO is...
There is a possibility if Charles Liang decides to step down, the stock will be up.
Really?
Yeah.
So who would step in there? I mean, is there...
We don't know yet.
Okay.
But
was he the person that was involved?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't. But there are quite a few governance issues with the company. I'm not happy with the structure of the board, and given that it is one of the co-founders who was involved in the scandal, there are quite a corporate governance issues from a CFO side. And keep in mind, if you recall, they've had accounting issues as well.
All right, very good. Would you know? Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Would you know? Senior technology analyst, Bloomberg Intelligence, previewing Supermicro's reporting after the close here.
It's going to be a busy after the bell. Yeah,
exactly. Red headline crossing the Bloomberg terminal. SEC unveils proposal to allow for semi-annual reporting. That's pretty big for those of us that grew up on quarterly.
That would really change the cadence of what we do here, but certainly what Wall Street does in general.
It would, and a lot of companies have been asking for this because they're saying you just make us, the quarterly reporting requires us to think so short term.
Right.
And we'd rather think, maybe longer term, invest for the longer term and that kind of thing. And that's kind of where that
it might make sense. We'll see
and
where
that's
that
what,
goes.
In Europe, they have semi-annual reporting.
That's
and people
right.
get used to that there. All right, for our listeners in the U.S.
I personally don't think that semi-annual reporting should be taking place. I think they should do quarterly reporting. Better yet, do monthly reporting. If AI is so more so much more productive for the back office, for the accounting. Why can't they report monthly? And this idea that it's too much of a hassle for quarterly is ridiculous. The reason why I say this is the more transparency that the investor has of the companies that they're investing in, the more informed those investors are. So companies that are saying, well, we want to only report semi-annually. No, you should be reporting. You should be reporting monthly, not just quarterly. So I personally think that it makes the investment decision more opaque, and it's not good for the investor. All right, let's listen into, let's listen to Cash Jordan about Chicago.
The best part about Russell Stover sugar-free candies, no sugar, great taste guaranteed.
Police are investigating a car fire that may have been set on purpose during a gathering on the city's south side. It happened early Sunday morning, and you can see people gathered around that car that's engulfed in flames.
So, gangs and criminals have decided that this is the year they make a new push to take over Chicago completely. And while crime has always been a problem in the Windy City, we're now seeing a surge in raids of restaurants, businesses, and even parking lots, which should alarm the city's very outspoken mayor, who seems so busy attacking America and our president that fixing Chicago isn't on the menu.
Surveillance video shows thieves struggling to drag a heavy ATM out of a grocery store overnight. Chicago police say this gang has been targeting city businesses and hit 3 stores just this morning alone.
Security footage shows the criminals using a dark-colored SUV to break through the building's glass window and exterior wall before gaining entry and taking an ATM.
We didn't have these problems when I started. We have cameras here, license plate recognition cameras.
He says morning, afternoon, or night, they're undeterred.
That's how bold and blatant they are. They will just walk right in front of a camera, and sometimes they'll even look right in the camera.
Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities. I'm going to work hard every single day to protect the people who are caught up in violence in the city.
I mean, this is the first time that I know where my car is and what they done did with it. But this is definitely the second time that they did it.
This is very frustrated. We're trying to make a living, try to survive the neighborhood.
So while crime is taking over Chicago, look at this. The schools are busy radicalizing the students. And what nobody's talking about is even though lawlessness here is through the roof, it's likely going to keep heading in that direction. And here's why. If you remember a year ago, there was a massive ICE operation in Chicago, which did bring down crime numbers by getting criminals off the streets, but that was only temporary. And the criminal underworld is now back with the mayor and governor claiming this as some sort of a victory, something the radicalized populace here is very excited about because they've pulled one over on President Trump in their minds, which couldn't be further from the truth. Things in Chicago right now are completely out of control. Here, it's not even safe if you want to park your car in an empty lot. But sadly, this is what happens when the folks running your town believe everything wrong is somebody else's fault. Ditto the electorate who keep putting people like this into office.
And this is part of the reason why I keep on saying a curse is coming. Because when you erode God, country, and family, when you erode the foundation of the Enlightenment with life, liberty, and property rights, you no longer have a civilized society. And if you want to be honest, when you look at the society you live in, for most people, they would have to say that the majority of the people around them are animals.
Result in ends up being a revolving door system that protects a precious criminal element. Because you see, these folks aren't criminals at all. Instead, they're victims of an evil, unfair country which was founded just to exploit people in their minds, which is why they blame America for problems they could deal with but won't. And that brings us to the real reason Chicago is headed in the wrong direction and is going to keep heading that way. As a place becomes more and more lawless, what happens is the law-abiding, they don't like this, so they leave. And who stays? People that don't have a problem with it. The law-abiding will not put up with this. They don't want their cars stolen. They don't want their restaurants and businesses getting plundered. They don't want gang activity and fugitives taking over intersections. But after they're gone, the only people who are still here are the ones you see wreaking havoc all across town, because none of these criminals are ever faced with a law enforcement consequence for any of this behavior. I wonder why. I wonder why that is.
Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities. I'm going to work hard every single day to protect the people who are caught up in violence in the city.
Right. So law enforcement, big sickness, huge problem. That's the reason Chicago is such a rotten place. We've got too much law enforcement. Meanwhile, these
It's not the law enforcement that's the issue. It's the people breaking the law that's the issue. I mean, this is the problem with this upside down logic. Societies are starting to crumble. And because of this inner fighting at the city level, there's going to be a curse. And guess what? Mankind deserves the curse. When you have individuals in your society thinking that it's okay to bust into your shop and steal your items, or bust into someone's car and steal the car, that's wrong. It's just something fundamentally wrong with the society. And there's certain demographics that are more prevalent in doing these activities. They weren't raised properly. You need God, country, and family in a society to have it stable. If you have those pillars eroded, then you no longer have a functioning society. If you have affinity for country, you're not going to be stealing from your neighbor. But not just that, if you have an affinity for God, one of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not steal. And when you have an affinity for your family, well, guess what? You'll want to behave in a certain way so the youth will be raised properly to be productive citizens. Now, nothing that's happening in Chicago that Cash Jordan's talking about right now shows that they have strong affinity to the 3 pillars. It's a major problem. So a curse is coming. A curse is coming.
Journalists, they figured something out about the mayor that he didn't want anyone to know. Watch this.
Say that law enforcement is a sickness when you yourself have over 150 sworn police officers on your detail. What do you say to these people, and will you ask your 150 sworn police officer CPD detail to stand down if you and your wife Stacy are?
Here's what I've said. That the addiction on jails and incarceration and the addiction of militarism, it is an evil.
I guess the mayor is suffering from the sickness of law enforcement because he's got quite a few police officers on his detail. It's costing quite a lot of money. And now those police can't go out and stop any of the crimes we're about to witness.
They put the plate down like it's a piece of art. They make me feel that way.
Chicago police are warning about a spike in car thefts across the loop.
CBS News Chicago investigator Tara Molina caught up with a manager of some of the lots dealing with these thefts who say the problem is worse than what we're hearing.
She's bringing us those details and taking a closer look at the crime.
This is one of the lots hit recently and repeatedly. And even though there are cameras like this one covering this space, I'm told these thieves are so bold, they don't care.
Why would you care about a camera if there's no consequence if you're recorded committing a crime. This is very simple. If law enforcement is a sickness that has no place in Chicago, what good's a camera gonna do? There's no police on the other end of it who are gonna do anything if you break into a parking lot and start stealing cars. And here's why this is such a problem. You've got crimes like car theft. And what happens? People that are very progressive, the socialists, they look at this and they say, yeah, car gets stolen, but that's your fault for buying a car people want to steal. And hey, you got insurance, so no big deal. Victimless crime. Meanwhile, the people that steal these cars, what do you think they're using them for? You've got crimes like car theft. And what happens? People that are very progressive, the socialists, they look at this and they say, yeah, car gets stolen, but that's your fault for buying a car people want to steal. And hey, you got insurance, so no big deal. Victimless crime. Meanwhile, the people that steal these cars, what do you think they're using them for?
We didn't have these problems when I started. We have cameras here, license plate recognition cameras.
Mark Gallis has more than 25 years experience managing parking lots across the city. He says recently,
our lots do not have as much business as we used to because word gets around in the neighborhood that these lots get targeted.
Oh, I thought this was a victimless crime. I thought nobody was harmed by lawlessness. Yeah, right. Lawlessness, as you're about to see, is the linchpin of the unaffordability crisis places like Chicago are dealing with. If you want to park a car in this lot, it now costs more money. Why? Well, first of all, car might get stolen and you're going to have an insane insurance deductible, and they got to hire more security to protect cars in places like this and make sure that the cars don't drive themselves away. But the real problem is that the people stealing these cars are the same people using them to do other things all over Chicago, which are even worse.
Pictures like this one from surveillance cameras of these theft crews. He says morning, afternoon, or night,
wild.
They're undeterred.
That's how bold and blatant they are. They will just walk right in front of a camera.
Wow.
And sometimes they'll even look right in the camera.
A few of his lots are listed in this recent alert from Chicago
And
police.
here's what's really
warning
crazy.
Of car thefts across the Loop and South
This
Loop.
guy right
car
here.
Thefts reported the end of February through this past week.
That alert was
This guy right here, he's not even covered up. He doesn't even care if he gets spotted. He was spotted. Have we heard about him getting arrested? No. And I also love how the sign here says, don't be a victim of car theft, as if it's the fault of the victim for having their car get stolen. It's the fault of the criminals that these vehicles are getting stolen. It's not the fault of the law-abiding, that what they had was taken away from them suddenly without warning by people who should be in jail and aren't. That's the fault of the local government and the people voting for these politicians who see every single criminal out there as a victim. But now it's time that we ask ourselves, what do the actual victims of these crimes think about all this?
What appeared to be an overnight crime spree, crash and grab thieves appeared to have targeted at least 3 businesses around Chicago, including this gas station here at 71st and Ashland. It's where surveillance video shows the criminals in action.
So as I was going in the back, I heard a ram boom.
It unfolded around 4:50 this morning in the city's Inglewood neighborhood. That's where thieves first broke into a BP Amoco gas station at 71st and Ashland.
Yeah, I was shocked because this is a business store right here and everything. People come in, different rates.
The security footage shows the criminals using a dark-colored SUV to break through the building's glass window and exterior wall before gaining entry and taking an ATM.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think these guys drove here in their personal vehicle that is registered and traceable back to them? Or do you think they got here with one of the vehicles from that parking lot we were just at? I think we all know the answer to this question. And what you have here is a staircase of victimless crimes that just seem to have more and more victims. Look, here we've got a whole bunch of victims. We've got the owner of this business who now has to repair his store. Lost all the money in his ATM. We've got a whole bunch of customers that were going to come here and try to buy gas, and the place is going to be shut down. And then the vehicle owner is going to wake up by the time these guys finish their crime and find out that their car's in the river somewhere. Yet all you got to do is lock people up who steal cars. And then you won't have people stealing ATMs or destroying businesses or destroying society or making life unaffordable for people who now have less places to go buy things, as well as the people who work at these places who now don't have a job while the place gets fixed, if it ever even reopens.
Did not want to be on camera, explains what happened next.
When I seen the guy bag back and do it again, I knew something wasn't right. He hit it like 45 times. When he hit it that 5th time, he knocked all of that out.
There's no way to stop
The guys got out so calm. And I mean, you could see that they knew what they was doing.
Oh, they knew what they were doing.
Picked up the ATM and put it in a waiting minivan and took off.
Wow, so they knew what they were doing. So they didn't get up one day, as we're told by many people, that, oh, you know, these criminals, you know, they just made a wrong choice. They were going to put on their suit today and go do tax returns for people at their accounting firm. And they said, you know, I'm going to go steal ATMs instead in a stolen vehicle. Like, we're supposed to believe that these are not people who have dedicated themselves to a life of crime and have been taught that that is a perfectly reasonable pursuit in life, because law enforcement's a sickness, because jails are bad, because if you have a jail and there's people in it, there must be something wrong and we need to release those people because they all say they're innocent and we should just believe them. And look at this. As I'm filming this video, last night, another break-in at another, like this just...
This is the third time this business has been hit in 2 years. The co-owner says this time thieves broke through a tall glass window, causing tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage, and it was all caught on camera.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
This is the reason why there's a curse coming. This is the relationship within a society starting to break down. And it's because of socialism. It's because of a post-modern philosophy that anything goes. That's relative. Everything's relative. It's relativism. No. Our constitutional republic is on the foundation of the Enlightenment. When you have a society that's not enlightened, you're going to lose your constitutional republic. It's that simple. And most of the people that are doing this are black. Now, oh, that sounds racist. No, those are the facts. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Cleanse or the Max 35. Now, the Max 35 is 35 parts per million. Cleanse is 30 parts per million. This will help to boost up your innate immune system. You take a teaspoon a day every day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds, and swallow. What this will do is neutralize and help improve your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, maintain your mucosal barrier, and help the health of the epithelial cells. Super important. I've been doing this protocol for over 6 years, a teaspoon a day, every day. Every day. Now, if you have the common cold, or you're going through, you know, the cold season, and you're around people that are not feeling so well, take a tablespoon. Do the same thing. Swish it in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds, and then swallow. It's really important to maintain good oral hygiene and help the health of your oral pharynx and boost up that innate immune system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And with good oral hygiene, you're also helping with your cardiovascular health. A lot of people don't realize that poor oral hygiene will lead to valvular disease and cardiovascular disease. It's not the only reason for cardiovascular disease, but bad oral hygiene does cause problems with your vascular system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So let's continue on what Cash Jordan is talking about here. Thievery. You have people in your society. It's happening a lot in New York. He's focused on Chicago right now. But I'm sure no matter where you're watching in the United States, I'm sure you're having theft issues in your city. In New York, you can't even go to a CVS or Walgreens without having to push a button because all of the items are behind plexiglass. Why? Because there were so many people in New York stealing and trying to sell them online, the items. And again, if you have an affinity to God, country, and family, you wouldn't be doing that. Because if you have an affinity to some sort of religious belief system, you wouldn't steal from people. If you care about your country, you wouldn't do things that erode your society. And if you cared about your family, you wouldn't be stealing. Why? Because if you have a society where a bunch of adults are stealing, then the kids are going to do the same thing as the adults. And there are many people that look at our society now that 80% of the people out there are animals. They don't have a code of conduct that is acceptable for a modern society. They're animals. You got to treat them like animals. But we have politicians that want to give them another chance, a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, a fifth chance. No. No. It's a big problem in New York. It looks like a big problem in Chicago. I haven't been to Chicago in decades. But the thing is that things are bad in the country. You have a lot of people that are lawless. You have a lot of people that feel as though it is their right to do these things. And when you have a society like that, it's going to be dysfunctional. People aren't going to trust people. And there's going to be a curse that's coming to this world. Do you think that our prosperity we deserve? Look at your neighbor. Look at the people that are living in your community, especially if you're in an urban setting. Can you honestly believe that your society should be blessed? Most communities, the answer is no. If you really want to be truthful about the situation, 80% of the people out there are animals.
This place.
Glass sent shattering as 4 people break into a South Lou cafe early Wednesday morning. This surveillance video shows the thieves taking sledgehammers to 2 game machines, grabbing the cash and taking off.
We're now looking at an epidemic of crime in Chicago. Every single day this stuff is happening. If you got a business, that place is a target. It is going to get annihilated by people who fear absolutely nothing. They've got an unlimited number of stolen vehicles that they can use as getaway cars. There are an unlimited number of businesses they can rob, at least there are for now. And once they're all gone, these criminals will probably move on to a place like New York or California. But what's the attitude of leaders about these robberies of businesses? Are these businesses, should they be protected? Are they assets to their communities, or are they something else?
Just watched an entire city council in transparency try to take wages away from the very people who are part of an industry that has its ties to slavery. Nobody's hiding from that. I am boldly declaring that we need reparations in this city, and that's why I'm funding it.
So the mayor is here fighting for wages.
This is what I've been saying for a long time. It's all about reparations. See, if you have a relativistic society, if you want to destroy meritocracy, then it is easier to roll in reparations. Now, there is no black living today. It is has a direct effect of slavery in the United States. Not one black alive today has any connection to slavery before the Civil War. Not one. Because if you were, you would have been the oldest person ever to live. Secondly, why is it that other people should be paying for your stuff just because you couldn't get your shit together? Oh, this is the remnant of racism and colonialism and all this stuff. Well, wait a minute here. Way back in the day when slaves were being sold, it was the clan leader or the king of the region in Africa that actually sold their people. But not always, but that was the case. And if you don't like America, why are you staying here? Why don't you just go back to Africa? Oh, what it is that they're pushing for reparations. And this is part of the socialist mentality to erode our Constitution, to erode the idea of property rights. Remember, the Enlightenment is about life, liberty, and property rights. And we have a constitutional republic. But if you erode those property rights, you no longer have a constitutional republic, you have a democracy. And when you have a democracy, mob can rule. And under a democracy, you can get a one-party system. Under a constitutional republic, there's checks and balances. There are provisions within the Constitution to protect the property. He wants to erode that property. He wants to erode the Enlightenment. He wants to erode our Constitution. That's what's at stake here. Still think that we're blessed? We should be blessed? Conservatives need to push back on this. The Black constituency that's pushing reparations should not be able to move forward with this because it is against the Enlightenment. It is against our Constitution. Our Constitution is predicated on property rights. He wants to erode that. Listen to Mondani. Mondani wants to erode your property rights because he can't budget. He can't actually do a balanced budget. And he wants to give freebies to everybody. But a tributary off of those freebies is reparations. Why should Blacks get reparations when they're going in and breaking into stores and stealing things? Or stealing cars, causing crime. Why? It's an animal. That's what an animal does when they don't have ethics. When they don't abide by a rule of law. That's an animal.
Of restaurant workers who he says are getting a bad deal and are part of a system of businesses that are connected to exploitation.
All right. So this is the mayor of Chicago. Chicago's Democratic mayor, Branson Johnson, stated restaurants have historical ties to slavery. What? What? See, all the Blacks out, not all the Blacks, many Blacks out there, they're tying their life to this, like, well, their great-great-grandmother was a slave. Well, you weren't. What about all the people that immigrated to the United States after the Civil War? Are they at fault? Why should they be taxed for reparations? This reparation thing is a give me. And when they get something, then they'll burn down the town again and ask for more. It'll never be enough. Trust me, it'll never be enough. All right. So historical ties to slavery. So they owe reparations. See? And it will be a slippery slope when more and more people buy into this BS. Your favorite diner, pizza joint, or steakhouse is now slavery adjacent. Slavery adjacent? They're even making up crap. Slavery adjacent? Giving businesses another reason to flee his city. You know, the problem here is the society will degrade and there's going to be a curse that's coming. And this curse is not just going to be in Chicago or Detroit or New York. It's going to be worldwide because of the infighting of religions, the infighting of races, the infighting of citizens, the infighting within a religion between observant and non-observant, between law-abiding citizens and non-law-abiding citizens. There's going to be a curse that comes down because we were not thankful for the prosperity that we've had for a long time. So you see someone like this, like the mayor of Chicago, screaming reparations, or maybe not even screaming and just like cordially hinting at reparations. You need to step up and say reparations. No. Why? There are many people that have immigrated to the United States post the Civil War. They have nothing to do with slavery pre-Civil War. Secondly, what about the people that actually fought on the Union side, that actually helped get slavery ended? Oh, there's institutional slavery, even post-Civil War. What about pulling up your pants, brushing your teeth, and going to work and learning something? Blacks dressed better before the welfare state. When the welfare state was instituted, blacks started dressing poorly, ghetto. Why is that? When you institute in your society meritocracy, you will get people to be more productive and more competitive and more law-abiding. But when it's a give-me state, when it's a nanny state, then what you're going to have is people will be less productive. They'll demand more from their officials. And the etiquette of the society will continue to go down. It's totally unacceptable for reparations. Why? Why should someone take from someone else when they had no direct link to slavery? And not only that, what did Lincoln say during the Reconstruction effort post-Civil War? The South wasn't going to have to pay for reparations for the war. So they can be integrated back into the federal government, and that they'll be able to rebuild. There was wisdom in that to allow for the healing process. So if there was wisdom in not pushing for reparations on the southern states after the Civil War, then there should not be reparations for blacks because of slavery. No, but they don't want to tell you that. They don't want to use the wisdom of Lincoln. Now think about how many nonprofits that were fleecing American taxpayers with the government grants, and they were run by blacks. Think about that. What about what was going on with Tish? The district attorney in New York. She didn't pay her taxes properly. She was doing tax fraud on income dealing with multiple properties and mortgage fraud. And because of our DOJ not doing their job properly, she got off because of a technicality. These people are ripping off the American taxpayer. And they're going to continue to push for reparations. Now, they can't do it so much right now. Why? Because the Republican Party is in control of the Senate, the House, and the White House. But what happens when it's reversed? What happens when the Democratic Party, that's run by ultra-left nuts, are controlling the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the White House? It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be really dangerous. And there's going to be a big push for reparations. And then non-blacks are going to have to pay more, while blacks are going to end up having your property. It's a slow taking away your property by taxing you more. It's the same thing that's happening in New York, but it's hidden. People that are rich, they're going to have to pay more. But we got to have all these social programs, and we're not going to cut anything in New York. How's that any different? Non-blacks are going to be paying more because of reparations. When the Democrats take power in the federal government and at the state level, pushing for reparations. And if you think this is not taking place, that I'm just speaking in hyperbole, you're not paying attention. Local officials are saying this on a regular basis. More than a year ago, about a year and a half ago, there was a study that was going on with Hochul, Governor Hochul in New York, talking to consultants and lawyers on how to implement reparations.
Now, how can you make that argument when you've got criminals who are exploiting these various businesses, making it tougher for them to pay their workers because all the money they make is getting stolen from their registers, stolen from their tip jars, and when they get robbed, they've got to repair everything. We don't even have to tackle the insanity of the ideas we just heard. There's something else that's making it hard for these places to operate. If you want good paying jobs, you want companies to have more money to spend on their workers, well, stop having them spend their money on the criminals. Let's take those criminals who should be in jail and build a jail and put them there. Let's do that. But nobody's talking about that. Nobody wants to do that. Instead, people are just wondering why the same masked criminals who we can't identify, might be the same people, might not be the same people, are stealing cars and stealing from your business. But some people are going to say, oh, you can't identify these people. You can't prove that the same people stealing the cars are the same people robbing these stores. Really?
3 a.m., thieves hit another gas station in the 3300 block of North Kimball. They stole an ATM from there, too. Moments earlier, police say thieves unsuccessfully tried to rip off a business in the 4000 block of North Park. That crew left behind a dark-colored SUV. Ayanna Davis says police told her SUV was used in one of the crimes after it was stolen off the street near 68th and Normal. Despite the damage to her Jeep, she's just happy to get her vehicle back.
Terrible. This is the second time it happened.
Time.
The second time it happened. I mean, this is the first time that I know where my car is.
That's terrible. This is the second time her car's been stolen, and then you.
And it was probably black on black crime. She's probably a hardworking, probably has a kid, single mother. That's the typical demographic in the region. And she has this happen to her. This is what I mean about the interfighting within societies. There's a big curse coming, and it's going to start on 9/11/2026. There's going to be a gate that opens, and there's going to be further escalation of cursing that takes place all the way through October of 2027. And society deserves it.
To commit crime. We have come full circle, and we've got proof that the same people stealing these vehicles are the same ones using them to do this stuff. And now think about the affordability implications of this. This is her vehicle right now. It either needs to be repaired or it needs to be, I don't know if you could drive it like this. This is going to cost money. She, at a minimum, if she does not repair the damage, has just lost tons of money on the resale value of this thing. And you want to talk about how lawlessness makes the lives of everybody living in a place like this unaffordable? This is it. At the same time, remember, this is also a sanctuary city. Remember that we've got criminals living in Chicago.
Frustrated with security tools that overload you with alerts? Aikido makes it simple. A single platform that shows you what matters.
Living in apartments, committing crime, who shouldn't even be in America to begin with. And there is resistance, eternal resistance on behalf of local leaders for doing something about this. And what we're learning is that if you increase the number of criminals anywhere and you do absolutely nothing to hold them accountable, everybody else pays the price for that.
That alert was maybe had 13 different dates on it. There's way more incidents than that.
We took a closer look at the crimes overall, honing in on District 1, which includes the Loop and South Loop, and found car thefts are up from this same time frame last year, 166 compared to 138 thefts.
A lot of thefts.
But we've seen higher numbers in years past, 223 in this time frame back in 2024. Police recommending people who park in lots like this one install a security or anti-theft system and make sure it's marked on the car. Gallus pointing out, these are often more than car thefts. The stolen cars used in other crimes.
And the same guy they interviewed says that the reports that you hear aren't everything. So somebody's doing something to sweep this under the rug. And what does the city tell people to do? Oh, you should put an anti-theft device on your car. And you should have a sign on your car that tells criminals that you have an anti-theft device, which is just going to tell them which anti-theft device they have to defeat. if they want your car. Because again, the police apparently aren't going to get here fast enough to do anything about this, aren't going to hold these people accountable, aren't going to put them in jail. And the sad thing about this is that we've seen what happens in Chicago when criminals are held accountable. Crime drops. This is good news for the law-abiding. The only problem is the law-abiding have already left Chicago. The only people left are the people who don't seem to have a problem with criminal activity, which is why criminal activity is now defended and law enforcement is demonized at all levels.
The stolen cars used in other crimes.
Just as recently as 2 days ago, an FBI officer called us up about
FBI?
a stolen vehicle being used down in one of the south suburbs.
Chicago police
Wow.
tell me they're still investigating all of these recent thefts, and
I
so
believe
far,
it.
no one has been arrested.
No one has been arrested. And you know what? If people do get arrested, what do you think's going to happen? All of these progressive cities, they are doing every single thing they can to pad their crime statistics. Here we've got evidence that certain politicians are skewing crime statistics ahead of the midterm elections. And look whose picture we have here. J.B. Pritzker. The number of felonies in Chicago, not to mention New York, Los Angeles, and Portland, is declining only because woke prosecutors are knocking down felonies to something less severe for political reasons. And they're also pointing out that Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, that his recent talking points are part of a concerted effort by the Democrat Party to hide the various forms of blight created by handicapping police and telling them that they can't do their jobs and releasing violent offenders. But this is how you make crime stats go away. You have a bunch of felons who have been caught red-handed. They're on security camera. They're not wearing masks. And you know what? They come before a judge, and the judge says, you know what? First of all, I look at these people, and I don't think they've done anything wrong. I think they're victims of an unfair world and that they should be released. So then that becomes the goal of the judicial system, is to get them out the door and get them back on the streets. So what do? They look at the evidence, and the police say, well, we have my body cam, we have my security camera, we found a weapon, and then they look at all the evidence, they say, you know what? I don't think we have enough. I don't think we have enough evidence to 100% guarantee a felony conviction, and that costs us money. We don't have a lot of money, so we're not going to prosecute the felony conviction. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go after him for a misdemeanor charge, perhaps something less that we know, that we really feel we can get a conviction on and really bring justice to bear again, which is our mission. What do you think about that? We'll see you in the next video.
Conservative people need to push back on reparations and reboot the Enlightenment. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, and also avocado oil. C60 has to be suspended in a lipid or an oil for proper absorption. Take a teaspoon a day every day. I've been doing this protocol for more than 10 years, every day, teaspoon a day. It'll soak up free radicals, reduce stress in the cells, reduce inflammation. And by doing this, your cells are going to be working properly. Your tissues will be working properly. Your immune system, your endocrine system will be working better. Your brain function will improve because you're improving the health of your neurons. You're soaking up free radicals at the vascular level. And by soaking up free radicals at the vascular level, you're reducing plaque formation. So you get lots of benefits on taking C60. And it's one of the target points to slowing down the aging process. Because if you soak up free radicals, you're reducing stress that is literally degrading your tissues. Part of aging is the change of your epigenetics. And that epigenetic change accelerates when you have a lot of free radicals, when you have less energy, when you have high inflammation. So by soaking up free radicals, you're slowing down the epigenetic change of aging. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description of this video. Get the C60, take it every day, teaspoon a day, every day. And you'll also notice that by taking it every day, your workouts, you'll be recovering quicker because it's soaking up the free radicals that you generate during a workout. So please go to my store and get the C60. That's the end of my broadcast. Thank you very much for watching the live stream. I will be also releasing this on all the channels. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great supplements I offer. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.